To Hawksby and Jacobs, actually Danny Kelly and Andy Jacobs today, a dream team, I think you'll agree, and particularly if you're watching on smart TV or YouTube, you will see an actual dream team in action. First though, we should get some news and sport headlines for you, and they come to you from Max Scott.
talkSPORT Sports Update, powered by the Nissan Van Range. Score a winning hat-trick of performance, payload and price. Search Nissan Vans or head to your local Nissan Van Centre.
Thank you, Danny. Good afternoon. Arsenal invincible. Martin Keown's giving it the big un. He's back in Arsenal to win the league.
I feel now, and I've never really tipped Arsenal to win the league, and it doesn't really matter if I do or not, they've got to go and do it, but I'm now feeling, Jim, that they're as close to winning it as they possibly ever can be because of what they've added to the squad.
He reckons the strength available on the bench will be the difference for the Gunners, looking to end their 20-odd-year wait for a league title. Meanwhile, their main contenders and reigning champions are struggling without Trent Alexander-Arnold. That's according to Liverpool legend Didier Mann.
I think what did happen, the teams dropped off because they knew if he needs to put a ball on a sixpence, he will do. And I think what it is, it stretched teams even by him being on the pitch and being in possession. And I think it gave everybody else in the team a little bit more time in midfield.
After a late rescue job at home to Bournemouth, Haman says Liverpool look fragile at the back and Frimpong is not a right back. Remember, tonight we've got Leeds versus Everton live and exclusive from 7 p.m. Now, talkSPORT understands Spurs are confident of reaching an agreement with Crystal Palace this week to sign Eberechi Eze. Direct talks between Daniel Levy and Steve Parish are expected to accelerate in the next 48 hours. In other transfer news, Nottingham Forest have confirmed the signing of 23-year-old French striker Arnaud Kalimuendo from Rennes on a 5-year contract worth around £25 million. For all the latest, head to talksport.com. And following Moses Itauma brutally breezing past Dillian White, our very own boxing expert Adam Catterall's convinced he could cause some serious problems to the very best in the world.
Moses Itauma would definitely ask Alexander Usyk a set of questions that he might not have seen for a long period of time. Can Usyk solve them? Listen, there's nothing to say that he couldn't solve them. He's solved every other problem that's come his way, hasn't he?
There's loads more analysis of the Itauma-White fight on the talkSPORT Boxing YouTube channel.
talkSPORT News.
A man has been convicted of 3 counts of attempted murder for his role in a shooting that left a 9-year-old girl with a bullet in her brain, and 3 people have died in a Russian airstrike on a Ukrainian city ahead of talks at the White House between Trump and Zelensky. Will's got more in half an hour.
talkSPORT weather with QuickFit. Come rain or shine, wherever and whenever suits you with our mobile tyre fitting service. Now that will have you driving away happy every time. Conditions apply.
Clouds slowly clearing across central and eastern areas. Sunny spells elsewhere with the odd shower in the southwest.
I know, Eddie, what are you laughing at?
That's on telly.
Yeah, there we are. Yeah.
Widescreen needed.
Statler and Waldorf, yeah. Not sponsored by Ozempic, yeah. I can see what you're saying there, Andy.
Yeah, it's not good, is it?
Welcome along to Hawksby and Jacobs. Today, Danny Kelly and me and him, Andy Jacobs. And for the next 3 hours, well, rather more so, I guess, than the normal show. We'll have Mondays once the Premier League has started again. There's a great deal of football to be discussed. Troy Deeney will join us very soon to talk about everything that happened in that first round of fixtures, if you like. Normally you have me making jokes about it, but Troy may do some actual analysis, hopefully. We've got lots of other interesting things for you, including the start of the Women's Rugby Union World Cup here in England tomorrow. Maggie Alfonsi will join us from that. Former British super middleweight champion Paul Smith will come on to talk about that fight I'm not sure I was very happy with the way Dillian White was ragdolled around the ring there by a man perhaps far too good for him at this stage of his career. Much else besides, of course, Chris Foy will join us to talk about everything that happened in the world of refereeing, including the new 8-second rule, which I absolutely enjoyed. The Spurs-Burnley game. And
Flawed.
Much else beside me, Andy, you for the next 3 hours, record listening figures, television as well. What more could you want? Welcome one and all to Kelly and Jacobs. Now, Andy, the start of any Premier League season, it's great to see you, by the way, and obviously working with you. The start of any Premier League season, for me, there are several things that mark it. You get the Community Shield, then you get the players running out for the first day, usually in the sunshine in front of a crowd, wearing their sleeves rolled up in the sunshine and all the rest of it. And then there is Andy Jacobs, completely non-scientific, widescreen haymaker predictions of who's going to finish where in the Premier League. And I thought we're going to start this show with a bang. For those of you who support Premier League teams, get ready now to hear Andy's predictions, which he will stick by throughout the season, but he doesn't do a lot of looking at stats and things. This is instinct, gut, and
it's actually based on nothing.
And experience of what the Premier League is
it's
like.
based on nothing. It's a completely knee-jerk reaction to the first weekend's
Where
results.
are you going to start? From the top? Start at the top, I think. Yeah?
It's City, isn't it? They looked the best on the weekend. Excuse me. City looked the best. Arsenal did what Arsenal do, which is score from a set play and keep a clean sheet.
So you've got City first.
Arsenal second.
Right.
Liverpool third. Spurs, I'm putting them at fourth because I have it on very good authority, and I know this for a fact, not Fabrizio Romano and those ITKs. Fabrizio Eze is going to Spurs.
This week?
This week, yeah. Well, it might not be. He's definitely going there. That's definite.
That's
I
good.
Promise you. And Chelsea fifth. I think they've still got a bit to do, really. There's, breaking teams down at home. United, I've given them sixth.
Okay.
No European football. Looked quite promising.
Okay.
Newcastle, this is absolutely based on nothing. Newcastle 7th, Forest 8th, Villa 9th, Palace 10th, because I think, you see, yesterday playing Palace, that was the worst day to play Palace in the entire season, because it's Optimum Palace. They've just beaten Liverpool and City. They haven't lost any of their players, and, they've had a good pre-season, so that was whereas if you play them,
the Chelsea excuse,
but if you play them next week after they've sold their two best players and they've had to deal with a European game which they've never had to deal with before in their history, then you'll know that it's going to be a lot easier to play them than it was yesterday.
Sorry, it's not mad enough that they've been demoted into the conference. But they have to play a qualifier as well. Now,
I know, you're doing that.
They will beat Fredrikstad. They will beat Fredrikstad, but it's just crazy.
They're honestly a very, very good team.
And because of what happened to them, I said it last night on Trans Europe Express, I really, really hope that they win the conference.
I think they could. I think any English team.
The danger to them will be if Shakhtar win their qualifier, they will be in it as well. They're a pretty good team. They've started to bring in a lot more young Brazilians. They might well be the thing that stops Palace winning that league.
But they are. They're well coached, brilliant. They've got about 6 or 7 players. The mad thing is if Palace were a different type of team that weren't a selling team, if they could bring in...
They added 3 players to the current squad.
They'd be brilliant.
Be in the top 6, wouldn't
honestly, they would.
Yeah.
Brighton next.
We're working up to the teams that are going down, everybody.
Fulham 12th, Everton 13th. These are all interchangeable.
Yeah.
Bournemouth 14th. You might be right. I've given Wolves 15th.
I'm not so sure about that.
It's a bit high, isn't it? Leeds 16th. Sunderland 17th.
And?
These are my bottom 3, I'm sad to say. Brentford. Oh, dear.
Well, we'll talk to you about that in a second. You get to see them normally.
Yeah, I'm not a fan, but I do go. And I thought that was a very concerning performance. Burnley. It's that same old story, the goals.
But also the reverse as well with Burnley. Clean sheets in the Championship, one thing. When Richarlison gets 2 goals like that against you, you'll start to say, this is the Premier League, is it?
Exactly.
Right.
West Ham bottom.
Yes.
Unless they beat Chelsea this week, in which case I'll have them mid-table.
Why have you got... I mean, look,
it's based on nothing. Don't take it too seriously.
No. But... Is there a part of you that wants West Ham to go down? Is that why they're there?
No, not at all. I just think I don't rate Graham Potter. I didn't rate him at Chelsea.
No.
I didn't rate him last season at West Ham, and that was a typical Potter performance, I thought. And it was interesting to hear Karen Brady on talkSPORT yesterday backing her manager. She has to, but
Yeah.
If they lose to Chelsea at home on Friday night, I think he'll be under a lot of. I think he's under pressure now. But it was a bit of an underwhelming, bit of an anticlimax for Chelsea really yesterday. But we'll talk about it in the game. Everybody, having won the Club World Cup and unveiled this banner that said World Champions, is really embarrassing. Don't do that. It's just going to inspire the other team. And the atmosphere at the beginning, which isn't always at the Bridge, it was incredible. You thought, set up to take Palace apart here. And unfortunately, Palace hadn't read the script. And very well. Put in a great performance.
You said not to take too seriously. The one thing I will take seriously is your fears for Brentford, because you've watched them very closely over the past. Is it 3 years now you've been going over there? More?
I just think, Norgard, Mbuemo, Visser, Thomas Frank, and quite a lot of the analysts.
Yeah.
I don't think they can, they were a good team. They were a good, solid, mid-table team. But if you strip that out, and they're a brilliant side, and I'm sure they know what they're doing. But a knee-jerk reaction to the first result is, they got problems.
Well, we will talk about that game a little later, but with Troy. The other thing, Keith Andrew, I want him to do well. Republic of Ireland International, all the rest of it. I do think it is almost impossible, if you haven't managed in a higher league elsewhere or in the Premier League, to have your first senior job in management being in the Premier League, is because not only are you dealing with players, things like that, the other coaches are also, nearly all so good that it's a very difficult job. And I wonder if Keith will look back on the weekend in 6 months' time, let's say he's still in the job, and think having a go at the players.
Such a bad idea.
Well, because he seems to me that Keith's at the stage of his career where he needs to prove himself to the players, not the other way round.
Yeah, I do think there's an element of that. But we'll see. Look, it's very, very early days. And I was saying to you, I've got a call subject for you for the listeners.
Good.
Because based on this story, actually, a farmer proposed to his girlfriend by spray painting, "Will you marry me?" on a sheep. Fraser Turner surprised Beth Walford while he was shearing with a pal.
Yeah.
A sheep shearer. And I thought to myself, because I know proposals have got very exotic now. People go to a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
Mine was less so. I mean, basically, I was sitting in the front seat of a two-seater car with my wife on my lap, basically deciding...
All right, hang on. Already this has got so many questions that need to be answered. Was the car moving?
The car was moving. As it came to a halt, I basically asked her to marry me, opened the door and fell out the car. That was basically it.
Well, mine's even less romantic, because during the middle of the pandemic, and we looked at each other, we hadn't seen another soul because we live in a remote place anyway, and now we're locked down.
The sheep would have worked for you then.
If only I could have caught one of those. A bit lame these days for catching the sheep, Andy. We kind of said to each other, we're getting on very well, aren't we, considering there's nobody else about? We should get married. The problem was, just so you know, we'll go to a break in a second, and I will give out the numbers, or you can give out the numbers for people to come in about all of that, is that, of course, I had been married previously, and so you need to produce a divorce certificate. The British state had closed down. So Alex, God bless her cotton socks, bought a dress for a spring wedding, and a dress for the summer wedding, and a dress for an autumn wedding, and we got married in the run-up to Christmas.
Oh, brilliant.
Because it took me a year to get the divorce certificate out of the British state.
Wow.
I mean, literally, I sent my solicitor down to an office. They just said, no, sorry, we're not doing that sort of thing at the moment. Absolutely extraordinary.
Because of COVID.
Yeah, because of COVID and all the rest of it. So the phone-in subject here, or text, we'll take all that as well, is how did you propose or be proposed to? We'll accept beautiful, romantic, filmic ones, and we'll accept people who had a great idea that was absolute tosh. I don't want to use the other four-letter word on air. So what's the numbers, Andy?
Oh, don't ask me. 26 years.
03717 23344. 03717 23344. 81089 is the text number. You can also get in touch with us at talkSPORT on Twitter /X. Sorry, how long?
I really must stop letting Paul do everything.
Yeah, you really, yeah. I threw to you there to give you a bit of character.
I know.
And you come straight back at me with topspin. Yeah, Torrentini will join us. A proper professional broadcaster will join us very, very soon. Talk about some of the big fixtures at the weekend. He's going to do 6 of those with us over the next half hour. Then Andy and I are going to do what we described in the meeting as the Drek. So if you don't hear your team mentioned next half an hour, they were involved in Drek.
Liverpool have beaten Bournemouth by 4-2.
It's taken down Gordon, and Conte's going to be sent off.
Sunderland 3, West Ham 0.
Troy Deeney is up on his feet, applauding his former teammate Richarlison. It is a brilliant overhead kick.
It's tapped in. Oh, goodness gracious me. Muniz has done it.
Brighton 1, Fulham 1.
Wolves have lost 9 of their previous 10 Premier League games against City. Make that 10 out of 11.
Chris Wood has scored his second of the game. For Keith Andrews, the worst possible start.
Chelsea 0, Crystal Palace 0.
And surprise, surprise, Manchester United have conceded from a corner with victory against one of their historic rivals. It finishes Manchester United 0, Arsenal 1.
The Premier League is back in session.
I know. All the way for the last 3 weeks, I was thinking, oh no, the Premier League's coming back. We've barely had any close seasons. Of course, as soon as it's back, I'm full of excitement about it. Absolutely. Well, not all the games were brilliant. We'll be doing the Drek in about 30 minutes' time. But to help us through some of the more exciting games, I'd like to say, of course, he's a very familiar voice here on this show. Troy Deeney, Watford legend, these days top broadcaster, is with us. Hi, Troy.
Hello, gents. How you doing? You
very
okay?
good.
Very nice intro, by the way.
I know, good build-up, isn't it? You've got to live up to that now.
Troy, you've got a very easy task here, because normally you do the first 15 minutes, then they throw to me, and I tell jokes about the football for about 30 minutes afterwards on a normal Monday. So all you've got to do is do better than my jokes over the next 30 minutes or so. Let's start with two teams that, of course, love to be part of the traditional Big Six. Manchester United 0, Arsenal 1. And Troy, I guess Arsenal are a big, powerful team, good at set pieces and hard to break down. You could argue United were a better football team on the day.
I don't think it'd be an argument. I think you'd be hard-pressed for any Arsenal fan to say that they were the better team.
Well, the manager said it.
Yeah, well, yeah, he also tries to claim the Charity Shield as a massive trophy, so we'll leave that one alone. But no, I just think Arsenal were what you expected. Big, strong, organised. Still a little bit rusty in terms of that fluidity in the midfield. I was listening to Martin Keown earlier. I thought he nailed it. Zubimendi was left on his own a lot. But for Man United, there was so many shoots of recovery that you should be very impressed. I think if I was Ruben Amorim, I'd be buzzing that the keeper made that mistake, because I'd walk straight into the office afterwards and say, any chance of trying to put a few more quid up for Donnarumma?
Yeah.
Is that a possibility?
Yeah, it must be a possibility, because Paris are desperate to get rid, and he's there. You know, he looks like, we described him last night on Trans Europe Express, Troy. We described him as the world's best unwanted player, Donnarumma. I mean, if you think what he did in the latter stage of the Champions League, for the fact that nobody seems to want him is nuts. Just an interesting.
And the fact he's only 26 as well.
Yeah,
I think people think he's 35. He's
because he's been around since he was Italian goalkeeper at 18, and he's got that slightly thinning hair. None of which is helping him, is it?
I'll tell you what's good news for England, though. Luke Shaw. I've never seen him look so trim. Good. I mean, he must have looked. He's dropped quite a bit of weight,
and they've
really
got a struggle at left back at the moment. I mean, that's why I think Jed Spencer got every chance to get into the next England squad. Just a wider thing about Arsenal, Troy, if I may, leaving Timber and Lewis Skelly on the bench and opting for 4 centre-halves across the back. I mean, the Premier League, obviously, in the last 2 years has just got bigger and bigger and more powerful. But that really is a statement, isn't it, about what kind of players they're going to try and go through the season with?
No, I think that's his favourite back four. He did that a lot last year. Just for injuries, he had to change it. I saw a lot with Arteta where he looks at that back five, including the goalkeeper, and says, this is everything I've got. This is what I'm going to build the foundations off. Again, a lot of chat. I said it probably a couple of months ago now. Gyökeres, for me, is not the answer. I know it's only one game in and people say he's rusty. But if you look at his movement, the way he was running, again, there was an incident where he went through 1v1 and stands on the ball. It's just, for me, I think you're going to see, and I've said it in the column in The Sun on the weekend, you're going to see Havertz start more games than you will Gyökeres over the course of the season.
Really? I think the problem for Arteta is if he doesn't win it, because if they finish second or third playing this sort of basically higher class, crazy game, Wimbledon style football, I think the
Arsenal fans won't just say Stoke, will they?
I think they'll have it. No, I think fans will have had enough of it.
Do you not think they're already saying it though, chaps?
Well, winning is everything. If they won the league, then people would say, well, who cares how we got it? We've won it, and that's all they'll care about. But if they don't win it, it'll be different.
And not being funny, but I am from North London, so I'm entitled to say this. The laser beam of Spurs winning the Europa League that pointed at their 5 years without a trophy, suddenly all of that is very much in play. Let's move on to Nottingham Forest 3, Brentford 1. Forest with a lot of new players and more coming in today, we're hearing. And Brentford, the opposite, kind of had a drain of talent, both at managerial and playing level, Troy. Andy's worried about Brentford. Do you share his concerns?
Yeah, and I think Keith does as well, Keith Andrews. I think, he's not a silly man. I think he can see optically it doesn't look great. I'm actually working Brentford Aston Villa at the weekend, and this time last year, that would have been a great game to go watch. Yeah. This weekend, I'm thinking, oh my God, this could be a 0-0. So I'm hoping that hopefully they do a little bit better. But I think, for Brentford, a lot of changes. I imagine they're going to go and get 3 and 4 players in. But they operate they operate a shoestring, don't they? They don't expect to go and spend 50, 60, 70 million on players. So they're going to have to see what comes later in the window. And then for Forest, that actually really surprised me. I thought Forest would be a little bit more, take a while to get going. But I think Brentford played into their hands. And it's great to see Chris still scoring, obviously.
It's interesting, Troy, from a player's point of view. I mean, I noticed in the Villa game and there were other games, the players did look rusty. They just did. The touch isn't there, is it? I don't know whether, obviously not every City looked pretty good, but a lot of players do struggle early season, don't they?
Yeah, and again, it depends on what your summer was like. Did they play internationals? Did they go away and actually have a break because it's their only year? In the first 3 years, they've actually had a break. I think it's also difficult for people to understand. Pre-season gets you fit physically, doesn't get you match fit, doesn't get you ball ready fit, doesn't give you the intensity and the emotional excitement that you get from opening day. So for me, it used to take 3 to 5 games to be at my best. And if I could nick a few goals in them early games, then I was happy. But I knew 3 to 5 games, I'd be at 100%.
Well, a couple of things, isn't there? Their preparations now are not a proper pre-season. Spurs have been all over the world playing games. They went from the Far East to Munich to the blinking Super Cup final. That is not a proper preparation, but that's part of it. The other part, of course, is deliberate. They want to round the players into form now for the middle and latter parts of the season. The trouble is that since Mourinho set the bar much higher for the number of points you can drop, you need to start well as well.
You have to start well in the Premier League. You have to accumulate points, otherwise you're going to be in trouble.
The good starters this weekend were Manchester City, who went to Molineux, Troy, and won by 4 goals to 0. I guess a result, looking at the way Wolves have been and the players they've lost, and of course the real big re-up, to use what the youth would have been saying about 10 years ago, in Manchester City, both in January and again now, this was a form result in some ways. City looked good.
Yeah, but I think Wolves also looked good to a point in the first half. They had a few scares. Still think that manager's excellent for Wolves. I have this feeling, lads, that I don't like to say, but I think he's going to walk away. I can see that manager, if he doesn't get backed the way he needs to keep that team competitive, I think he'll walk away from it. I really do. City are great. Again, a lot of people who haven't watched much Serie A last season or the season before, like I have, don't know much about Reinders, but he's a fantastic player. He's naturally a 10. He's only dropped back because, they haven't got Rodri in there and he's doing a bit more of a defensive job. But the feet he showed and the little flicks and the finishing, because I think he got 16 goals last season in Serie A.
Yeah.
So he's a fantastic player. But I think he's one that went under the radar for a lot of people because they didn't know much about him. But he's going to be a wonderful, wonderful addition. And then you've got the likes of Cherki coming off the bench, Marmoush coming off the bench. It feels like a real team. But that one area for Man City that will always be the case, how long will Rodri be fit for? Yeah. If he's not fit, they can't win the league.
Yeah, well,
a revitalised Manchester City would be right up there, no question. Oscar Bob,
he'll be there. They can still finish second.
I thought, after his injury disrupted season, he's a real prospect, that guy.
Yeah.
Listen, we'll take a break and we'll do 3 more matches with Troy. And our thanks to him for joining us. It was actually at quite short notice, so genuine gratitude to Troy for joining us. And remember, if the next 3 games don't contain your team, they are reduced to the pile of dreck that Andy and I will analyse at about 1/4 to the top of the hour. You're listening to Kelly and Jacobs and Kelly, whatever you want to call it, here on talkSPORT.
Every spring, sports fans in Europe come together to celebrate arguably rugby's biggest annual tournament, the Six Nations. But why is it the home nations, plus France and Italy, and no one else? It all started back in 1871 when Scotland beat England in the very first international rugby match. A few years later, when they could field a team, Wales decided they'd host England and an idea was thought up. With Ireland keen, they formed the Home International Championship, which ran from 1883. In 1910, France was allowed to join, as they were developing into a serious rugby nation, and thus the Five Nations was born. France had an interesting history with the championship. They were actually booted out for paying their players in 1931, when the home nations were keen to keep it amateur. After World War II, though, France were let back in, but it remained a closed shop for more than 50 years. And when another country was let in, it was only really because the Five Nations' hand had been forced. Italy was developing into a serious contender, beating Scotland, France and Ireland twice in the same year, meaning in 1999 officials got together and said yes to Italy, and it became the Six Nations. So what changes, if any, come next? 7 nations? 8? A promotion and relegation system? Or should we leave it alone and let it remain the great rugby tradition it's become?
Yeah, this is Hawksbee and Jacobs, but in the form of Danny Kelly and Andy Jacobs, working together for there's a long time, not quite as long as you and Paul, but a long time, which is great.
We've done the show a lot together.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, Paul and I have never done it together because it was thought to be too Spursy, whatever that means in radio terms. But there you are.
Well, you both fall apart towards the end of the show.
Yeah, well, that'll happen anyway, won't it? Troy Deeney, as I get towards dinner time. Troy Deeney. Is still with us, but thankfully, to review the game between Liverpool and Bournemouth, where the champions run out eventually, I have to say, Troy, by 4-2 winners. What did you make of this game?
Well, it was a great game, a perfect advert for the Premier League starting the opener. I thought Liverpool and Arnie Slot were a little bit more Klopp-like. The changes he made seemed to make it a bit more end-to-end, a bit more chaotic, and thankfully they managed to get the goals in and win in the end, but it wasn't for Bournemouth making it very scary, and especially for Semenyo. We know what happened in this situation, yeah. But he went and showed just how you handle, difficult situations. He got better, and unfortunately, he wasn't on the end of a winning 2 goals, but it was certainly a performance he could be proud of.
Liverpool just got goals in them, haven't they? So even when it got back to 2-2, you thought, well done, Bournemouth, this could be a real shocker. But yeah, they found a way, didn't they? And it was the forgotten man, Chiesa, but it was a good goal.
Yeah.
Then Salah weighed in at the end. So, yeah, I mean, that's what Liverpool do. But everybody seems to think they just don't look as solid as they have.
Yeah, but I think a big part of that is Ryan Gravenberch as well. Losing him out of there is that anchor that holds it together, and especially with the ball. A lot of what Liverpool were getting caught on was turnovers when they turned the ball over. You look at the second goal for Bournemouth. Salah tries to play a pass to the edge of the box to no one, and they break on that counter-attack, and Semenyo then scores. So it's more Liverpool turning it over than teams hurting them. But Gravenberch being back, and by all accounts, Mark Gahey and Isak will be done by the end of the month, and they're going to be very, very formidable.
Yeah, that'll make a big difference.
Well, a really powerful score. The only thing I would say about it, Troy, and I'm asking your opinion as next player here, is that last year everything went for them. They had a really good record with injuries by and large. The players slotted together very well. They are bringing in half a new team, all of them brilliant players, and you could argue in most cases upgrades on what they had even. But to win it again, they do require it. It's almost like everything has to go well for them again, doesn't it?
Yeah, I disagree with that a little bit because the core of the team is the same. So your goalkeeper's the same, your two centre-halves are the same, the midfield is the same, your top goal scorer and your most assists from Salah is the same. So everybody else is kind of, the vegetables on the side of the main dish, aren't they? So they are very, very good.
I'm sure the fullbacks would be delighted to be described like that.
Hey, listen, I like cabbage like everybody else, but it's not the first thing I pick out, is it? But I just think they're very good. They're going to keep growing and getting better. But weirdly, you can look at Liverpool and see what they're doing, not only for this year, but for the next 2 or 3 years. I think when you look at a lot of other teams, it's try and fix now to win now. So I think Liverpool are in a fantastic position. And as I've said before, if they get Isak, and we just spoke about the amount of goals they already score, if they get Isak, I think he scores 30 goals in the Premier League.
Yeah,
I really do.
I agree. Yeah.
Okay, then let's move on to, Andy, two teams, well, one who were fighting relegation in theory last year and one who might be this year. Spurs 3, Burnley 0. And I guess that the game dominated, at least visually, Troy, by 2 brilliant assists by Mohamed Kudus and 2 fantastic finishes by, Richarlison, who, when he's fit, he's just a different. He's just a very good footballer, but he hasn't been fit enough for Spurs for too often. No player likes being injured. It's a shame for the lad.
No, absolutely. Again, played with Richard, obviously, at Watford when he came over. I worked the game for talkSPORT. I thought Kudus was excellent, and I love what Thomas Frank's done with him. I think at West Ham, a lot of the game was around Jared Bowen and getting it to Jared Bowen and he'll win us a game. For Spurs, they've just said, give Kudus the ball every opportunity you can and go at him. He was fantastic. Again, we have to be careful. It was Burnley.
Yes, of course.
It was Burnley. Burnley are going to be terrible. They're going to stink, and they were stinky on the weekend. Let's call it as it is. But
they had a couple of chances, but that's the problem.
They were from the edge of the box, though.
There was more chance of me scoring in the stand than any of their lads scoring at that point. But, Spurs look good. I was looking at it and I was thinking, right, Paulinho will have to come in because that midfield, I like Archie. I like all of the midfielders.
They're very young.
Very young, very immature at times. They're all running everywhere. Paulinho will have to come in and be the base if they're going to do what they need to do. And it was just screaming for a number 10. I know James Maddison obviously is injured, but Eze type in there.
They are getting Eze. I absolutely know this for a fact.
Yeah, but my senses came up and I was thinking, do you know what? They could be a shout for Champions League. They could be the team that comes in the top 4 because they were excellent all the way through.
See, that's what I said.
Well, Andy's already said that.
Have you? Sorry, Andy.
No.
Well, can I caveat that then? If the 2 centre-halves get injured, then they're going to finish 15th again.
Oh yeah, but that's also there's 2 problems with making predictions this time of the year: injuries, which absolutely would derail any, and also who comes in the next 2 weeks. Dubravka became a bit of Premier League history and a very good trivia question. Who gave away the first corner for holding for too long?
But you knew it was going to be Michael Oliver.
Of course it was going to be Michael Oliver. He couldn't wait, could he?
You knew it.
That's very good.
We're going to talk to Chris Foy later about it, but just prior to the goalkeeper holding the ball for 8.5 seconds, Pedro Porro had been messing around at a throw-in for 22 seconds with the ball behind his head.
Yeah,
it's not right. It's not fair.
The flaw in this rule, I think it's a good rule.
Yeah,
but
fair enough.
The flaw in it is it's not for goal kicks. So yesterday we saw Henderson. Right, he got rid of the ball if he caught it, but when it was a goal kick, he took his time. Surely that should be exactly the same thing. Otherwise, the goalkeeper's just going to take ages to take a goal kick. Then the referee.
Have you saw already, lads, as well in the Arsenal game? Ben White just went down when they wanted to kill time. So it didn't matter how long the goalkeeper held it for because he was like, oh, look, he's down. Yeah, so there's already flaws in it, as you say. But
that was
I'm sure Chris will come on and defend his referees.
Of course.
Tactical
the other one they've got to deal with is
3 minutes.
When teams are defending a lead, when the goalkeeper in the last 50 minutes fields the ball and falls face first onto it as though he's been shot from the crowd, I noticed that my attempts to move my head towards you, Andy, with these earbuds in. At the moment, it looks like I'm wearing one of those surgical collars. I need to learn to move my head more freely. Now, let me just say, listen to this. This is the West Ham Vice Chair, Baroness Karen Brady, joined Sean Custis and Henry Winter in the studio yesterday on the Sunday edition. She believes, as we move on to that result between Sunderland and West Ham, she believes that manager Graham Potter needs time to get things right at the club following that 3-0 defeat to the Black Cats.
Graham is a forward-thinking manager. He's sort of calm under pressure. He's very detailed in his approach. He's a great manager of players. He builds a special relationship with players and they understand where he's coming from. And he has a modern mindset. And all of those things mean that it does take some time to put a team together, to get the team playing the way that you want. I mean, West Ham is not a club that panics about its managers. We tend to support people, stick with them and see it through. I really hope he does well. He's a pleasure to work with. He's incredibly professional. And I know the players respect him. I know his relationship with the players is good. I know he'll be sitting down with them today to have a long, hard think about what went wrong yesterday, expecting a reaction and expecting to put it right.
Yeah, it's good that he's forward-thinking. He can plan the next stage of his career because it isn't going to be at West Ham.
Massive vote of confidence there from the, what is she called, the vice chair.
Yeah. Look, if they get a result against Chelsea this weekend, then everything's going to look rosy. But if Chelsea go there and win in front of the full crowd on the Friday night, I think there'll be a lot of anger there.
Troy, it strikes me that West Ham, they've got lots of problems, but the most obvious one to me is that in a league like the Premier League, they just have no legs in midfield. They've just got no mobility in midfield.
Well, the fact that you could call that, I called it last year when they had it with Julian Lopetegui. Look, I think they've got recruitment wrong for maybe 3-4 years now. They've been trying to move on from Mikel Antonio for maybe 7 years, and the best they've come up with so far is Callum Wilson. So I just think it's a mess. West Ham. I love West Ham as a historical club. I like what they're about. This notion, and I want this to be very clear, I'm not hammering Graham Potter because I dislike him. But this notion that he's a top manager and he's forward-thinking is all that. Based on his time at Brighton, every manager at Brighton does well because it's a wonderful setup.
Yeah, I agree.
We don't actually know what Graham Potter is yet. We'll figure that out because Chelsea looked like it was a bit too big for him, just on the optics. And then now when you look at it, you're going, well, he's had 6 months and they look worse.
Yeah. We should mention Sunderland because none of us wants to see... We don't want to see the promoted teams all automatically go down again because that is a disaster for English football. If the parachute payment becomes a yo-yo payment, nobody wants that. But what a start for Sunderland, Troy.
Yeah, I said I think they'll stay up. I think Wolves go down. I think Sunderland will finish 17th, 16th between them and West Ham. Because I think West Ham will make a change and then get to a point where somebody comes in and just steadies the ship. But I think Wolves will struggle. I think Sunderland have been excellent. They've shown what every team should do. Kept some of the guys from last year. They've changed and been ruthless with, like, the goalkeeper, for example. Granit Xhaka's now captain. Got some ruthless decisions. But they've also said to all the other guys, if you want to stay up, you got to be fit, strong, and we're going to beat you up. And when we're at home with that fantastic crowd behind us, it's going to be difficult for anyone that comes there. So that's what every team should do. And I'm off to go watch Leeds Everton tonight. And I'm pretty sure Leeds will be playing out from the back and doing everything exactly that they should do.
Yeah, Danny said to me before the show that West Ham needs somebody like David Moyes. That's a good point, really.
Well, they do. If that's the squad they've got available to them, there's only one manager who'll get the best out of it. But they had him and let him go. But look, the past is the past.
Well, what do we know?
We have to look forward. We have to look forward. Yeah, that's right. None of us are baronesses. We have to look forward, Troy. It's been a great joy to have you on. Thank you very much for your insight and wisdom. Good luck tonight in the Leeds-Everton game. Absolutely. So now you know what the dreck is. Andy and I will next discuss Brighton against Fulham, Aston Villa against Newcastle, and Andy, Chelsea against Crystal Palace. That's coming up next here on Kelly and Jacobs. I can't believe we're nearly an hour. We're rocketing through this show. It must be so enjoyable to listen to. If you believe that to be the case, please send your congratulations to the talkSPORT management. Andy and I will get stuck into the remaining fixtures in just a second. One or two of your text emails coming in about proposals, good, bad and indifferent. We want the ones that were disastrous. Oh, I'd love to as well. Tell me someone
that proposed to his wife on a sheep.
Yeah, on the back of somebody writing, "Will you marry me?" on the side of a sheep. Of course, I'm very interested in people who said no to proposals, because in drama it hardly ever happens.
No.
Everyone says yes, and
harsh.
it's and at sports grounds when they tell the camera turns to somebody on one knee holding a small box in their hand. I want the woman to go, "Are you nuts? Leave me alone. I've come to watch the basketball." Hi, Danny and Andy. Great show. This is. We'll get on to who it is from in a second. I proposed to my wife in the middle of Croke Park among 80,000 others. That's the huge stadium in Dublin. During a Springsteen gig. Boss was singing "Waiting on a Sunny Day." Danny, please read it out if you can. Every Sunday night I have to tell my wife at 9 o'clock that I cannot watch any more TV as Trans-Europe Express is on the radio. Listen, thank you very much indeed for that. My wedding proposal, says Stuart, the Manchester City fan in Burnley. Boxing Day 1992, Christmas meal in my flat in Stockport. I'd hidden the engagement ring inside a Christmas cracker. Already, what could possibly go wrong? Elvis Presley's Blue Christmas came on. I stripped naked to just a pair of gold G-strings, got on one knee, pulled the cracker. The ring fell out into my wife's chicken soup. I fished it out, licked it clean, slipped on her finger, and popped the question. We're just coming up to our 33rd wedding anniversary. Stuart, possibly the luckiest man in the world. I'm trying to get used to these new screens. I proposed to my now wife in a lovely converted barn of an Airbnb. I asked her to pack my best wishes shirt. She packed hers. I'm going to have to. I'm not quite working this screen as well as I hoped. We'll come back to that.
What a system!
Have you seen this? I've got to kind of lean to one side and look like an archaeologist into the ground.
Oh, it's such an improvement on the old system.
Well, someone will give me a piece of paper with all the best things written out on it. Yeah. All right, listen.
Dear. I remember the days when you could see the gallery, but never mind.
Well, in the case of this producer, I'm glad I can't see him. But look, I can still see Becky. So, the gods of broadcasting smile still upon the fat man. It's all good.
Yes.
Let's talk about some of this dreck then. Brighton won, Fulham won, which wasn't the best game either.
It wasn't either, no. And Fulham were like a team of goalkeepers in that green. It looked really odd.
Yeah.
It was only when they weren't wearing gloves you realise it wasn't the keeper chasing it like a ball out of the area. What else could you say about the game? It wasn't brilliant.
Not much.
Both teams have been quite quiet in the market. Brighton have done a bit of selling. Really, I mean, there's not much you can add to this. No, really.
Don't try.
Okay.
Let's move on then to...
should have been a penalty in this game, but we can talk about that.
When Chris comes on, yeah.
Definitely.
Chris Foy will be with us a little bit later. Let's have
what a stat that was, though, about Brighton, that they've led in 11 games and not won in any of them. That is really a remarkable...
And it's ruinous. If you carry that through a season, you will be in deep trouble. Newcastle boss Eddie Howe spoke to talkSPORT after the 0-0 draw with Aston Villa on Saturday. What a faceless, featureless thing that was as well.
Oh, yeah.
My very own Sam Matterface asked him about a certain centre-forward.
We would like a resolution. When I say we, I'm sort of talking about myself, and I'm sure the ownership, everyone, really the players that we have, because I think we need that clarity. This season, any season, Premier League season, is going to be hard enough. You don't need any kind of distraction to swerve your thoughts, to unbalance what we're doing. So, yes, but... I'm certainly not in control of that, and I think there's only one person really that can control that.
I mean, it is a massive distraction for Newcastle. That's obvious. They're their best player and all the rest of it. But the game itself, two teams who are both currently top of the moaning about the financial restriction in which they find themselves straitjacketed. Yeah.
But Villa especially looks so rusty. The players who can put passes together. It's interesting to hear Anthony Gordon, though, say in the paper this morning that he didn't understand Ezri Konsa bringing him down. He said, I don't get that. He said, you might as well let the forward go. Even if you concede, you've still got 11 on the pitch.
Yeah.
But they got away with it, Villa, didn't they? So, their XG was 0, which is not great, is it, really?
No, it wasn't a great game, and those are two teams that we'll expect to improve as we get into the guts of the season. Oh, well,
it really is the dregs, isn't it, this section?
Yeah, because next up, hang on to your hats, excitement fans. And if you're not already, sit down, because we're going to talk about Chelsea 0, Crystal Palace 0. Though actually, I'd say that was a pretty good performance by Crystal Palace.
It certainly was. And the biggest bonus was with our brand new digital season tickets on our phone that I got in. The drawback was I got in. It was such a terrible game. It's one of the worst games I've ever seen in my life, I thought. First of all, devoid of excitement.
I mean, this is the first. Make a note of the time, everyone. 13 minutes past 5 to whatever it is, on heading towards 2 o'clock. Some compassion for Chelsea. They're an extraordinarily youthful team.
Yeah, average age of 23. I thought first half Palace dominated. They probably should have gone one up. Neither team really did enough to win. Chelsea were much better the second half, much better than Palace. They dominated the second half. The game wasn't helped by the overly fussy Darren England. You know when a referee doesn't make any big mistakes?
Yeah.
But he makes like little mistakes, like he doesn't play advantage, or he gives a foul and then identical tackle 2 seconds later he doesn't give. It was one of those performances.
It's almost worse because he seems
really irritating.
Continually ruining the game.
The game never flowed. I mean, it really didn't. Palace have got some terrific players. So Wharton, he's really impressive.
Fantastic player. Mitchell playing as a wide player, really good.
All depth. Great for Achimpong, though, the young Chelsea centre-half. I mean, what a schooling for him up against Mateta. And he did, in the main, he did pretty well. So, yeah, that was a good sign. But generally, I think it was a game that both teams will probably forget as quickly as possible.
Yeah, Leeds-Everton, of course, is tonight. It's live on talkSPORT. Troy Deeney will be among your commentary team, as you heard a little bit earlier. We'll be getting a proper preview of that a little later in the show. Danny Mills, of course, ex-Leeds stalwart, will join us for that. And the Premier League is back up and running. I suppose I should ask you the same question I was asking myself. Do you still get the tingle, the excitement when the football starts again? Yeah, likewise. I always think I'm not going to.
Absolutely. I mean, the match of the day, when match of the day comes on, the first match, I was so pleased they didn't ruin it.
No.
It was a real possibility. When you heard the BBC chairman saying, we don't need highlights, we don't need highlights, we just need analysis. Oh, shut up, mate, you don't know what you're talking about.
You've got the rights to so little sport, but what you've really got is the football highlights. Let's see those. A little bit of comment afterwards. Everyone's happy.
I think so.
Yeah, fantastic. Listen, thank you very much indeed. First hour's flown by. If you've enjoyed listening as much as we've enjoyed doing it, then you're having a blast. Let me remind you, you're listening to Kelly and Jacobs on talkSPORT in partnership with Toolstation. This summer, shop Toolstation, an award-winning Hawksmoor lawnmower range. In-store, on app and online. Next stop, Toolstation. loads to get through in the second and third hour of today's edition of Hawksby and Jacobs with me, Danny Kelly, and him, Andy Jacobs. Before any of that, though, we should get the latest sports news and much else besides from Max Scott.
talkSPORT Sports Update, powered by the Nissan Van Range, helping business owners to work better and live better. Search Nissan Vans or head to your local Nissan Van Centre.
Good afternoon. Martin Keown says Mikel Arteta is going to have the last laugh this season.
Well, I'm backing them this year for the first time in a long, long time. The last 3-4 years I've not done so, and this year I am.
That would mean Arsenal ending their double-decade wait for a Premier League title. Meanwhile, after a 1-0 win for Arsenal at Old Trafford, Mr Keown says Man United are back in business.
Fans will look at it and say it's just another defeat, but actually I think they made a lot of progress in the way they played, very clever, the way they picked up the message from the manager, the wing-backs pushing higher up the pitch, 2 midfield players close to the back 3. They weren't in any kind of a rush. It was a good platform to build their attacks from.
Tonight on talkSPORT, remember we've got live and exclusive coverage of Leeds versus Everton from 7 p.m. Now, we understand Brentford are continuing to block Johan Visser's move to Newcastle. They won't let him go without a replacement. Nottingham Forest have completed the signing of Arno Kalimuendo from Rennes. It's a 5-year contract. The deal's worth around £25 million. He follows Amari Hutchinson and James McAtee into Forest. Spurs have confirmed what we reported on Thursday. Jed Spence has signed a contract extension. Meanwhile, we understand that Spurs believe they are confident and close of agreeing a deal with Crystal Palace for Eberichi Eze. More on that at talksport.com. And talkSPORT's boxing expert Adam Catterall's told us Moses Itauma is Britain's best current heavyweight fighter. Itauma stopped Dillian White in the first round on Saturday, and Catterall says the 20-year-old would beat Dubois.
If I'm really honest, if they were to put Moses Itauma and Daniel Dubois in a fight right now, I think the skill level of Moses Itauma would be just a touch too much for Daniel Dubois. I think he's that good.
There's loads more analysis of that first round knockout on the talkSPORT Boxing YouTube channel.
talkSPORT News.
A man's been found guilty for his part in a drive-by shooting which left a young girl with a bullet lodged in her brain. And European leaders will gather in Washington tonight in a show of support for Zelensky as he prepares to meet Donald Trump in the White House.
talkSPORT weather with QuickFit. Today it's raining tyres in our centres, including top-notch brands like Pirelli. Visit your local centre or quickfit.com and book today.
Clouds slowly clearing across central and eastern areas. Sunny spells elsewhere with the odd shower in the southwest.
More bass than Bootsy Collins. You versus me, that's like Ali versus Foreman. Guards act, stand back and watch. Devil's timeout.
Yeah, welcome back to Kelly and Jacobs here on talkSPORT. I'm sitting in for Andy. Sorry, for Paul for the next 4 or 5 days. That music, of course, is Rumble in the Jungle, because this is a new section we've got called, for this week only, Grumble in the Jungle. I've decided that I love listening to Andy muttering under his breath about things, both on the show and before. When we, before we come on, he's very big on it. I thought I'd give him a whole section where he could just get things off of his chest. Don't worry, there'll be normal stuff coming up very, very soon. We'll be joined in about 10 minutes' time by Paul Smith, the former British super middleweight champion, to talk about that heavyweight battle. Is battle the right word? I don't think it is. Over the weekend. Ashley Hammond, the CEO of the International Federation for Cerebral Palsy, will join us to tell us about the new men's Euros and women's Intercontinental Cup for sufferers from that condition. Chris Foy will join us at 1:45 to talk about all the big refereeing decisions of the weekend. Was Arsenal's goal a foul on the goalkeeper? And I disagree about that. The Eze free kick, and that Senassi handball, which well, that could have been anything if they decided to deal with it, but they decided not to. All of that.
Did he make contact? I said to you need Snicko. You know,
very good. Yeah, absolutely.
To see whether he actually touched it.
Well, if not, he's got very interesting fingers the way they bent back.
Oh, you think so?
Yeah. Listen, Andy. first of all, I must warn people, do not switch your radio off just now, or your smart TV, or YouTube, whatever you're watching us on, because Andy's got a great story to tell you about the recently departed Terence Stamp, the great actor, at the end of the Grumble in the Jungle, which I'm determined to keep saying until it becomes a national phrase.
I've already had one of my grumbles. It is the new 8-second rule.
Tell us what the problem with that is, Andy.
It's just not applied to goal kicks, so it's pointless. Yes, you can penalise the goalkeeper with the ball in his hands, but if he's awarded a goal kick and he moves it from one side to the other, which is entirely, then he stands back.
Then he has to clear there's no mud anymore on football pitches. No. They all still clang the back of the boots on the
back of the boots, still that. Then the referee has to come over and book him.
Yeah.
But then he's never going to send him off again. So what's the point?
Yeah.
And the whole thing is, it should be exactly the same. And a throw in your own area. Again, the same thing. If you deliberately waste time either on a throw-in, it's good. They've addressed time wasting.
Yeah.
They need to also address the tactical timeout. The one that you were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
It's usually the goalkeeper, because if outfield player does it, he has to go off for 30 seconds. If the goalie doesn't.
So the goalkeeper has to clutch some obscure part of his anatomy and say, "Oh, goal."
I had a remedy for that as well. That basically should make the goalkeeper go off for 30 seconds if he's not genuinely injured. That's the thing. But of course, then you've got to prove
you're asking the referee to make medical decisions there.
I think they're capable of that. I see Darren England being capable of that.
Well, we saw on the continent, Andy Brassell may talk about it. Referees deciding that a head injury isn't serious enough to stop the game, and of course it absolutely influenced one of the important games. What else have you got on your list of things that, in order that you don't go home and annoy
I've lost my list.
Mrs. Jacobs with more things that you want to moan and groan about, Andy? No.
Digital season tickets.
Go on then.
Oh, God, I hate digital season.
Well, for a start, the joy when you first got your season ticket, and it was a book, often in a cheaply plastic-covered book, and you could flick through all of many of the games were cup games and things that you wouldn't get to see anyway. You could flick through and physically get excited through the individual little pieces of paper about what you were going to see. Of course, people under the age of 30 just go, what the hell are you two talking about now? But I'm telling you, you're missing out holding your phone up to a metal post. No, you've got to tear the piece of paper out and hand it to a geezer like that, and hand it to the geezer at the turnstile, who, incidentally, if you've got a young child with you, if you give him 10 bob, he'll also let him in as well under the turnstile. That's a much better experience, am I wrong?
It is. But even they switched from the books of tickets to a card, and the card was fine.
Yeah.
And for example, if I couldn't go to the game, not necessarily you wouldn't want to go, but say I gave you the card,
yes,
you could go to the game.
Oh, I'd go to any game, Andy, trust me.
And you couldn't tout the card, because basically what would be the point? I'd never get it back, never see it again.
No.
So you had to use it yourself. And it's even worse at Brentford. I mean, at Brentford, I sit next to a guy, and when I can't go, which is quite often, because either they're playing the same time as Chelsea or whatever reason, I let him use the ticket. I don't charge him. I let him bring his dad or another Brentford person, and it was absolutely fine. It worked brilliantly for the last 3 seasons. Now I can't transfer the ticket to him. It has to go back into the Brentford ticket exchange.
Really annoying.
It's so annoying.
It's really annoying.
My ticket, I paid for it. Why can't I do with it what I want to, within the law?
Let me tell you, Andy, about season tickets. This story almost has a macabre edge to it. I was flicking idly a few years ago through eBay, things you put in the search word Tottenham, and I don't know what it was. It's always late at night when I buy things on eBay, right? Let's just say that. And there was for sale some 1980s memorabilia of Spurs, and I thought, that looks relatively interesting, and I bought a bid for it, and 10 days later, here comes the box of stuff. But what it was somebody's Spurs life. Because there are a number of old season tickets from the mid-'80s in it. But also he changed address halfway through. Why did he move house? And his personal Spurs identity cards, his Spurs membership cards. Now, I've kept it because one day I'll probably track his family down and say, do you want this stuff back?
Yeah, why did they get rid of it?
I don't know, Andy. Clearing out lofts, you know how these things work.
Yeah.
But it's the sort of thing a non-football fan would say, well, that's just a load of junk, isn't it? No, this is somebody's supporting life.
Absolutely. What a fabulous thing to have.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And believe me, I'll be passing on to someone else who cares about it if that dreadful day ever comes. Is it time for Terence Stamp? Yes. No, will Terence Stamp occupy 4 minutes, Andy?
Well, he might, because it might lead to something. Basically, Terence Stamp was an incredibly good actor and an incredibly good-looking man, a beautiful man.
Most handsome man in the world was his title.
This is what they said, yeah. And I used to belong to the RAC club in Pall Mall. It's a very posh club.
Hold the bus already,
but that's a whole nother story.
Oh.
Again, I mean, it ended up costing me 35 grand. But
is that the ones where you have to have a certain kind of tie to get in? Yeah. Okay. Okay.
And some of the listeners will remember it, but Paul loves this story because it cost me 35 grand.
Yeah, I'm already warming to it.
Yeah, basically, you had to wear a jacket and tie. That was the thing.
Yeah.
And I was in fashion at the time. I was in menswear. And I was wearing a sandy-coloured Italian soft constructed jacket with a brown corduroy. It was like a camel-coloured jacket, brown corduroy button-down shirt and a paisley tie. I looked fantastic.
Yeah, you sound like that. Sounds fantastic.
So fashionable.
Remember the soft machine about that time? Yeah, very, very good.
He came up to me and said, "You're not properly dressed. Sir. I'm sorry, you're not allowed in the club." And I'd been a member for some time, and I just thought, well,
it's square.
Blow this, worse than that, but blow this. And I thought, well, that's it. I'm resigning my membership. It's ridiculous. About 3 months later, it got sold. And each person who was a member got 35 grand. I'm talking, this is like 40 years ago.
So, my God. Because, of course,
it was an absolute fortune of money. And I just missed out on it because of the paisley.
You were too groovily dressed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But while I was at the RAC...
This is already a great story, Andy, and you're working up there. Come on.
They had the beautiful Turkish baths. I don't know if you're aware of them or what a Turkish bath is. It's like a sort of old-fashioned sauna, really.
Yes.
An overall sort of big area that's very
I've got to say,
steamy.
Working-class lads in Islington, very limited knowledge of the goings-on of the RAC club, if I'm honest with you.
I don't blame you. And you'd go from the Turkish bath into a plunge pool that was like ice cold. I mean, really. And there was Terence, 42 years old.
Yeah.
It was about 45 years ago. 42 years old. Absolutely stark naked.
Lovely.
Come from the sauna, and he dives into the plunge pool. All I can say is he's less well endowed when he came out.
Yes. I can understand that.
My claim to fame, though, that I'd actually seen him, but I didn't just see him in a suit there, saw him fully in as nature intended.
Well, listen, the word plunge pool reminds me that, people are very, very brave, aren't they? The nearest village to me, you try spelling it, is called Graignor Manor. It's a beautiful...
I love those Irish spellings that are nothing like the way it's pronounced.
No, it's pure Middle Earth. And the town itself is lovely, very, very small. It's a village by English standard. We call it a town, with a lovely ancient arched bridge over the River Barrow. And recently, somebody has opened, and you'll have to forgive this name, a tiny village. Why would you need a communal sauna that you can pay to go to? It's about the size of this room, so let's say 10 by 12.
Oh, quite nice.
And it's called the Hot Box, right? But the feature of the Hot Box is that the plunge pool is behind it, River Barrow. Now, the River Barrow comes straight... I think it comes out of the Slieve Bloom Mountains in Tipperary. And except for about 3 days in August, it is unbelievably cold and pure and perfect. My home's water comes from it and is absolutely...
It's very good for you, though, that.
Oh, absolutely crystalline, the water, and it's just fantastic. But people go into the hot box, get themselves nice and lobstery from the sauna, and then they are pushed into the plunge pool, which is an active river. I mean, it's not for me. I don't mind. I love to swim in what people go mad. I call it open swimming now, open water swimming in it. It's just swimming in rivers and lakes, isn't it? Open water swimming.
Yes.
But you do that at the end of the plunge pool. So let me remind myself: a soft constructed brown jacket.
Yes.
A paisley tie.
Paisley tie, brown corduroy shirt.
What trousers?
I don't remember the trousers.
How big the flares? What's the biggest flares you've ever worn, Andy?
Yeah, not that big.
Could you have covered a small car with your flares?
Yeah, cover my feet. You're right about that.
They must be coming back. I noted several of the young people who were on the plane yesterday coming back from Oasis were wearing very large flares. You know what I think about that? Great. I cannot wait till my sister puts some patches into the middle of my normal trousers and makes ankle swingers out of them. I'm absolutely thrilled with that. Absolutely would. On a more serious note, unless you've got any more grumbling to do for now.
No, it's not grumbling, really. It's just something that impressed me in the paper that I'd never heard of before. You've heard of the Red Arrows, haven't you?
Of course, yeah.
You know, well, there's a formation wheelbarrow team. There they are. They're called the Red Barrows.
Of course they're called the Red
brilliant
Barrows.
is that?
And the River Barrow. Look, this is why we win all the awards, isn't it? Oh, Andy. Magnificent, sir.
What
Magnificent.
a segue.
Absolutely.
I'm retiring.
Yeah. Go out at the top, Andy. Go out at the top. On a much more serious note, there was a big heavyweight fight.
That's true.
There was a big heavyweight event at the weekend in which the upcoming and obviously brilliant Moses Itauma bashed up Dillian White in a first-round knockout. We'll talk about all of that with Paul Smith, the former British super middleweight champion, these days top discusser of the pugilistic arts. That's next here on talkSPORT.
to survive. Good left hand and the body shot. He's stumbling along the ropes. He's not gone, not yet. He takes the right hand. on his knees, getting the applause of his trainer, Ben Davison. And Moses Itauma, certainly here in Riyadh tonight, you could argue he has arrived.
John Rawling, a star is born.
Yeah, it wasn't just John Rawling and the talkSPORT boxing team that thought a star was being born. The former heavyweight champion Tyson Fury took to Instagram after Moses Itauma knocked out poor Dillian White on Saturday night. He believes that Itauma is the real deal. He does believe that. I'm led to believe, but
if I could impersonate Tyson Fury, I'd do it. But I can't. So
no. He it looks like he might be a very, very good person to intimidate, impersonate.
It was interesting though that in boxing you always get this, but the referee was right to stop it. But you saw White say, "Oh, look, I'm all right."
Actually, luckily, Tyson Fury is listening and has resent the clip.
Oh, good.
So here's the opinion. You've heard it here first. Moses Itauma will wreck all them old men out of the division. Usyk, AJ, Miller, whoever there is who's old, Zhang, whoever else there is, Luis Ortiz, all these big names of the past are all a spent force. And even the world champion now, if they took my belts and give them to Usyk, Moses will wreck him because he's a young man versus an old man.
Does he include himself?
He did not include himself there, really notably, did he? Yeah. Looking very good in an England rugby shirt, I thought there.
Yeah, terrific.
We're joined now in the studio, as we promised, by the former British super middleweight champion, Paul Smith, these days top commentator on the game. How are you, Paul?
I'm good, thank you, Darren. Nice to see you.
Absolutely. We saw you over at Wembley in that mad event we did before the Usyk-Dubois fight when Andy, in the room by the end of the 3 hours of the show with myself and Simon Jordan, there were about 50 boxing people, broken-nosed fighters, managers with massive Rolexes on their wrists, hangers-on of all kinds, security people. I mean, there wasn't enough oxygen in the room for everybody that was there. I'm going to ask you the hard question first, Paul, before we get on to the prospect of Moses Itauma. Is this something we want to see, an old geezer getting walloped in the first round by a clearly brilliant new fighter?
You know what? Unfortunately, that's how boxing is, and boxing is all about timing. And I've said this for years. I think Ricky Hatton became world champion when he beat Costa Zoo. Probably a year earlier, may not have beat him, but he got him at just the right time. And we always see it, and that's why a lot of fighters, when they retire, they don't really announce it. They just let themselves go, get out of shape.
They probably know, don't they? They probably
know when it's the end. But I felt on Saturday night, he caught White early, and I keep seeing rumours that White wasn't really that good. I just think Itauma was really that good himself. Yeah. He's a special talent. He landed with a big, powerful shot in the first round, which landed on the back of White's head. It wasn't an illegal shot because White dipped into it and it landed, and that scrambles your senses. And from then on, the writing was on the wall from the start. But I did feel like White would have gave Itauma some rounds on Saturday night. I felt he was the one to do so.
I would never tell a boxer when to retire or not, because I wouldn't do what they do for a living. It's their courage, it's their life, it's their choice. What do you feel the future holds for Dillian now?
I think after that, listen, I like Dylan. I've made no secret that I know him well, and I would like to see him retire after that, because obviously
he's been great.
He's had a brilliant career, and he's made a lot of money through boxing. He's been very successful in his time, and he can hold his head high. But what is next? Who else do you want to go in with now? Because Itauma is a special talent, as I've said before, but the rest of the bunch are all decent as well. And after the long, hard career he's had, it takes its toll on your body at 37 years of age. I'm 42. I can't get out of bed with things making noises and clicking.
Wait till you get to me and Andy's age.
There you go. And I'm sure at 37, after the career he's had, Dylan White will be feeling the same type of injuries as well.
Who's going to want to fight him, though? Because they don't want to rule themselves out of a fight with Usyk, which is on the cards for 3 or 4 of them.
Yeah.
So is he going to find it hard to find an opponent?
He's going to be in a category of very, very high risk for low reward, and you're not hiding to nothing. If you beat him, he was only a young prospect who went too soon. If you lose to him, which will be inevitable for most of the people there. I saw an interview with Joseph Parker, and I really liked his answer. They were like, who would you rather fight? And he was like, I want Usyk next. And he's in a real position to fight Usyk next. And they mentioned to Tom, would you fight him? And the answer is, look, I will fight anyone, as any fighter would, but why would I want to fight him at this stage when I've got Usyk set firmly in my sights, and that's a realistic opportunity. I think he's in the who needs him club at the moment, Itauma.
I don't know which promoter it was, but saying that he'd take Dubois as well. Itauma, that's what they reckon.
I would put Itauma in with Dubois personally, after seeing what he did to Dylan White. The hand speed he's got, the ability he's got. and just mentally, I think he's. Tolman, I said this in a positive way, and I don't mean it in a derogatory way. He's got that arrogance about him that a champion at heavyweight needs, and he's got that added confidence / arrogance of knowing that I'm better than you. I will beat you. I will land to the shot first. I'll beat you to the punch, and I'll win.
I mean, despite having many differences in about much of the world, I'm great friends with Simon Jordan, and I stand. He knows nothing about football. He really does know very little about football, but he does know a lot about boxing. He really is an expert on boxing
and paddle.
And it's about 9 months ago he started to text me about Moses Itoma. And you think, okay, I better keep it. So I went on YouTube and watched it. Now, I'm not enough of an expert. Simon sees it. You can tell the rest of the listeners, the millions of listeners, what is it that's making him so special?
We've been expecting this. We, as in the boxing fraternity, we know about these before they make that crossover to be mentioned on talkSPORT News or to be shown on the news channels on TV. We've been hearing about this kid since he's been 15 years of age, knocking grown men out, and he's been a freak of nature and a sensation that's coming through the ranks, coming through the ages, and all of a sudden he's now here, and we're getting to experience what he's like in person and live on the big shows. And after just 12 fights, he's making a statement that he could have been the one that maybe beat Mike Tyson's record to become the youngest heavyweight champion of the world in history.
But why? Is it speed? Is it hand speed? Is it punch power? What is the combination of things that he's bringing to this squared circle?
The same with boxing, Danny. The same with boxing in general. Mike Tyson was special. People mention his power. People tend to forget he was one of the fastest heavyweights ever with his speed. You've got to have it all. He's got speed. He's got power. He's got the strength. He's got the ability and the ring IQ, more importantly. He's a very clever fighter. When he had White hurt on Saturday, he didn't rush in. He took his time. He kept his composure, and he got the job done. Whereas a lot of other fighters of lesser ability or lesser sort of mind strength and mental strength would have steamed in and rushed in. Listen, as I probably would have in my time, when you smell blood, you're going for the kill. But he's very, very clever and intelligent, and he's got an old head on young shoulders.
We'll come back to whether I've got a news, actual piece of breaking news to put to Paul here. We'll come back to Moses Itoma, but we're hearing that Daniel Dubois has split from his manager, Don Charles. Yep. There was all that controversy about I thought, look, I'm not a boxer, but frankly, ludicrous build-up to the big fight against Usyk. Are you surprised by this?
A little bit, because I feel Don Charles is a good trainer, but more importantly, a very good trainer for Daniel Dubois. He knows him inside out. He knows him very well. The dynamics of that relationship always look good to me. And we'll talk about this more in detail on the boxing show. Obviously tonight, and we'll speak a lot more about that. But I feel, listen, I don't know because I'm not involved in that camp, but I feel that was probably the right fit for Daniel Dubois, Don Charles, someone who's more like a fatherly figure to him, someone who can. Daniel Dubois is very quiet, doesn't really speak much, so he needs someone who can take charge in the ring. And that's the thing with a fighter and a trainer. The relationship's quite unique and special in the fact that the fighter is the boss, but in the gym, the trainer needs to be the boss. And it's a whole
Where does his
mix-up.
dad fit into all this, though?
See, that's the thing. I don't know his dad. I've never met his dad, and I don't know the dynamics. His dad can sit back and be very proud of what he's done with his life and his kids, because his kids are very successful and world champions in this sport. And they've got a young brother coming through, Solomon, I think his name is. I've watched him a couple of times. He's a very good fighter, but we don't know what goes on behind closed doors. And obviously, there's a dynamic there where the father is very consoling with the fighters and his kids. But obviously, he will argue that he's getting the most success out of them. But when that becomes blurred lines in the fact that you're stepping on where the trainer should be doing also, then that's a problem in the camp. The trainer needs to be the boss. The trainer needs to say what's going on in the gym to get the fighter fit to fight. I'm just about to do a plug for your boxing podcast here on talkSPORT, Paul, but sure, if you can, is Tyson Fury pressing on something here? Whether it's Itoma or somebody else, does the heavyweight division, now that Alexander Usyk has beaten everybody, does it actually need a clear out and for some younger blood to come through? I think whoever gets in the ring with Alexander Usyk will lose to Alexander Usyk. He's an exceptional talent. He's proven that by beating both AJ and Tyson Fury, our best fighters in the heavyweight division, twice each. Yeah. And I think he's a special fighter who's achieved special achievements. And I think, in my opinion, he could retire now and sail off into the sunset. That will make the heavyweight division wide open, because all them 4 belts are going to be fragmented. All the top fighters in the heavyweight division are going to be wanting to win one of those belts or 2 of those belts or more, and we're going to see really good fights made for them. But at the moment, they're all in a line and in a queue trying to get the shot at Usyk, because that's obviously all the marbles and all the money.
That clip of Tyson Fury sort of basically saying Itoma would beat up everybody else but didn't mention himself. How would that fight look? Do you think Tyson Fury against him?
I disagree. I think Atoma would struggle with Usyk at this stage.
I agree.
In a year's time, it's a different fight. At the moment, with Tyson Fury, I don't know, because Tyson Fury, for me, in my opinion, has been an unbelievable champion, an unbelievable figure for British boxing. We should all be very proud of him. But in his last couple of fights, and the Francis Ngannou fight especially, I felt he showed his age. I felt he showed his age, and if you're getting in with someone like Moses Atoma and you're looking your age, you're going to be made to feel your age, in my opinion.
Well, thank you very much indeed, and don't all rest of you listening. I don't miss the latest episode of Talk Boxing with Simon Jordan, who knows he's boxing, Spencer Oliver, Duke McKenzie, and Paul Smith. That's available tonight from 8 p.m. on the talkSPORT Boxing YouTube channel. And this Saturday, live only on DAZN, unbeaten Jack Rafferty defends his British and Commonwealth titles against the dangerous southpaw Mark Chamberlain in a domestic showdown. Sign up now at dazn.com/boxing.
Boxing update on talkSPORT with DAZN, the global home of boxing. Buy now at dazn.com/boxing.
Every spring, sports fans in Europe come together to celebrate arguably rugby's biggest annual tournament, the Six Nations. But why is it the home nations, plus France and Italy, and no one else? It all started back in 1871 when Scotland beat England in the very first international rugby match. A few years later, when they could field a team, Wales decided they'd host England and an idea was thought up. With Ireland keen, they formed the Home International Championship, which ran from 1883. In 1910, France was allowed to join, as they were developing into a serious rugby nation, and thus the Five Nations was born. France had an interesting history with the championship. They were actually booted out for paying their players in 1931, when the home nations were keen to keep it amateur. After World War II, though, France were let back in, but it remained a closed shop for more than 50 years. And when another country was let in, it was only really because the Five Nations hand had been forced. Italy was developing into a serious contender, beating Scotland, France and Ireland twice in the same year, meaning in 1999 officials got together and said yes to Italy and it became the Six Nations. So what changes, if any, come next? 7 nations? 8? A promotion and relegation system? Or should we leave it alone and let it remain the great rugby tradition it's become?
Yeah, the NFL returns to Wembley in October as the Los Angeles Rams take on the Jacksonville Jaguars. We got a huge competition to win VIP tickets. That's right, we're giving you the chance to win 6 seats in a private box at Wembley Stadium and full hospitality plus $5,000 spending money. Here's how to enter.
18 plus, UK excluding Northern Ireland. For a chance to win, text the word cash to 83338 and you're in the draw. Text costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message. You must have the bill payer's permission or enter for free by calling 0330 880 3338. All entries must be received by 25th August at 11 p.m. This is a talkSPORT limited promotion run on talkSPORT, Talk and Virgin Radio UK stations. See talksport.com for terms and conditions.
Okay, handbrake turn, really. Something serious, but nevertheless very interesting, I think. We're already at the start of the men's Euros and the women's Intercontinental Cup for people with cerebral palsy. Ashley Hammond is CEO of the International Federation for Cerebral Palsy, and he joins us now. Good afternoon, Ashley.
Good afternoon from Loughborough University. It's very nice to see you. And thank you for having me on.
I know a bit about this because I covered cerebral palsy football in the 1992 Paralympics. I did it for Channel 4, and it was the one event that I loved the most out of all the things I know. I was so moved by it and so fascinated by it, by the competitiveness of the players and the seriousness in which they took it.
Yeah, anybody that was watching the England-Ukraine game last night will tell you exactly how serious it is. And England unfortunately came up a goal short on Ukraine last night, as far as they're concerned, unfortunate. And now they have to beat Spain tomorrow night. So we've got a barnstormer going on here at Loughborough University. And again, thank you for having us on. And if you're in the area, we've got games all day tomorrow, all day for the rest of the week, right up until our finals on Saturday.
Ashley, we'll come back to the competitive sport in a minute. I know this is a very difficult thing to do. Can you explain to people like me who know the word cerebral palsy, but tell us a little bit about the condition and how common it is and how people in any way can look out for it or look to help people with it?
Yes, thank you. So cerebral palsy is the most common lifelong physical disability in the world. Millions and millions of people have cerebral palsy. In layman's terms, cerebral palsy is usually regarded to as someone that has a stroke before the age of 2. After 2, if you have a stroke, you have a stroke. And then our sport also includes people with brain trauma. So you could have someone might have had cancer, brain cancer, and had surgery, been in a road accident. We have a lot of veterans that play as well who've had traumatic brain injuries, for example. So our sport is a little more than cerebral palsy, but cerebral palsy itself is typically a person that's had a stroke before 2, and that impacts their physical abilities for the most part. And our athletes at the end, we're working at here at our event, world-class athletes who play football, slightly modified version of the game to take into accommodation that. And as you gave me the chance, ifcpf.com.
Yes.
That's the website. You can go there and
repeat it, please.
ifcpf.com. And you can go visit our website and see the game schedule for this week and follow us on those handles as well. And you'll see some world-class football being played this week. And we have that around the world.
Let us be slightly prosaic, parochial about this. Are England's teams any good? Or Britain's teams, depending on what they are?
Yeah, so the men's team's excellent, ranked 4th in the world, and they have a shot to get out of their group. They do have to beat Spain tomorrow. They've definitely suffered a setback. The women's team is embryonic, although the FA is very supportive. Both of us as at the IFCPF in this event. The English women's team is not in this event, as sometimes difficult to put together the teams. We have the women's program here has USA, Australia, Denmark, Netherlands, and actually a team from Nepal. We got a few women from Nepal came over, and we've sort of put them together with some European players as well. So the women's event, like I say, is definitely in its beginning stages. We need a lot of help with that. On the men's side, fierce competition. Northern Ireland is here, Scotland's here, and good teams across the board in Great Britain. Yeah.
Is it 11-a-side, full-size pitch?
Good question. No, so we play 7s and a goalkeeper and 6, obviously, and it's played on a slightly smaller field. Usually for the men's game, it's 70 by 50, and a couple of modifications on the rules, such as no offside. And in order to get the ball back in bounds, you can roll it underarm with one arm if you choose to. You can also do an overhead throw, but a lot of players have impact on their one or other of their arms.
Yes,
and that enables it to get them back in.
And why soccer? Why is football? I mean, apart from being the most popular game in the world, Ashley, is it particularly suited to people with cerebral palsy, or because people want to? It's a popular game. People want to play it.
Yeah, absolutely. Is it suited? You certainly, people with CP typically have balance issues, and so falling over is a common theme, unfortunately, or more common, let's say, in our sport because they're balance issues. But I see the passion for football across every one of our players, much like you would see anybody else, and no less a supporter of the game or no less a desire to play the game than anyone else. And certainly at the younger levels, what happens to a lot of kids with CP is they get marginalized out of able-bodied sports at an early age, and it really is a struggle for them to get into the to stay in the mainstream game. And that's one of our missions too, is to try to help anyone stay in the mainstream game, because that's oftentimes helpful for their play. Not easy, but we're getting there, and people like you having us on board really gets the message out.
Well, actually, what's getting the message out is your enthusiasm, which is and knowledge is fantastic. Thank you very much indeed, Ashley. You heard there about the tournament in Loughborough. Look it up. It's very easy. But you put cerebral palsy and Loughborough, it'll come up on search engines these days, particularly those driven by artificial intelligence. And our very, very, very grateful thanks to Ashley Hammond, the CEO of the International Federation for Cerebral Palsy, for joining us. We've been asking for your proposal stories, being proposed to or doing the proposing, and also particularly if you turn somebody down. 03717223344. This is on the back of Andy revealing very early in the show, and of course you were all listening from the very start. I don't like latecomers to my cinema. That somebody had proposed to his putative wife by writing, "Will you marry me?" on the side of a sheep.
Yes.
Now that's not very good painting surface sheep. I watched the local farmers trying to mark them with their sort of brands. They're very woolly. It's very hard to paint on them, but he's done a great job. But I think all of the categories may have been put to bed. Don't hesitate to come on if you've got better stories than this. By Gordon from London. He says, referring to me and my proposal, joint proposal, me and her, during the lockdown. Not unlike you, Danny, the pandemic affected my rational thought processes. And after a couple of drinks indoors during lockdown, I got down on one knee, having fashioned a ring of a Prosecco cork wire and a sweet wrapper, and proposed to my partner. She knew I was serious, as we'd been together for nearly 16 years at the time, had 2 kids together, but always avoided committing, as I take the sanctity of marriage very seriously, and it's been a rocky 16 years. Now, I think we'll get to the end of this and realise she hasn't said yes, but he said, incidentally, she very publicly proposed to me in 2007 at a televised event during a break in the proceedings. In front of a baying audience, bloke shouting out, "Don't do it," while she knelt in front of me with football celebrities watching on. I said no. embarrassing her in the process before we both left the venue with me justifying my actions. Oh, I would love to have heard that conversation mic'd up. He said, we've gone on to have 2 kids together. We both have an adult child from previous relationships and are practically days away from celebrating 21 years of living in sin. Hashtag still not married. Thank you, Graham. Gordon from London. Please, if somebody, one of the space satellites must have picked up Gordon's justification for saying no to her in a public proposal. I need to hear that footage. You're listening to Kelly and Jacobs here on talkSPORT. Next up, Chris Foy will join us for the host of Men in Black, and we'll talk about all the big refereeing decisions of the Premier League opening weekend.
VAR's decision, the explanation that we've had, is that Senesi had no control over the ball.
So they're ultimately saying that it was just a natural movement of his body, which is total nonsense. he knew exactly what he was doing because he was panicking.
How much longer will he be a Crystal Palace player, Eberechi Eze? We don't know the answer to that, but he has just thundered in a free kick into the back of the net. Darren England, the referee, though, has just made the motion that he is going over to the pitch side monitor. There is a possible foul here.
That's what happens at free kicks when you're on the end of the wall. You just try and ease the player out the way. I think Costade's got to be stronger. I don't think that's the right decision.
Manchester United 0, Arsenal 1, and it's an absolute calamity for the goalkeeper.
The goalkeeper has to use the hands to catch the ball, but he's getting pushed. I understand that we are trying to help the game to have more goals, but sometimes too much is too much.
Honestly, Perry's so biased against Chelsea. Oh, he hardly touched it. He pushed him right out the way, made a big hole for Eze to put the ball through. Definitely a free kick.
Listen, new season, same old refereeing controversies, of course.
Yeah.
Never heard of Law 13.
You'll never get rid of that, even if you have VAR or not.
No, and probably the game's better for it. How did Senesi get away with that blatant handball, for instance? Join Sam Matterface and former Premier League referee Chris Foy every Monday afternoon on the Men in Black podcast as they dissect the biggest VAR decisions from across the weekend, all in one bite-sized chunk. Download today from the Premier League All Access feed, wherever you get your podcasts, or catch up on YouTube. This is a sort of gold standard example of what you might hear.
Referee missed it, but the VAR, James Bell, called him over to the monitor. Once he was alerted to the fact that Mark Gahey was within 1 metre of the rest of the Chelsea wall, he had to disallow the goal. It's not subjective. It wasn't like, was he interfering?
I thought it was a really good decision, but it did cause a lot of noise, didn't it? Because it's something we don't see, and we don't see very often. The reason there was a bit of noise around it and surprised us, people didn't know the law. It was as simple as that, and the goal was quite rightly disallowed. People don't like it, but there's an acceptance now that it was the right call, so well done to the refereeing team.
Yeah, that last voice you heard was that of Chris Foy, of course, one of our top referees when he was active. These days, the co-host of the Men in Black podcast that I was telling you about. I'm delighted to say he joins us on the line now. Good afternoon, Chris.
Hi, Danny. Hi, Andy.
Chris, first of all, I've got to thank you. Every Sunday after Trans-Europe Express finishes, Chris tweets out to his millions of followers, man, that's a great show. I'm not joking, Andy. Andy thinks nobody likes that show. I'm not joking. He really, really does like it, and he makes it very public. Thank you very much, Chris, and I can see you face to face. I've been wanting to thank you for some time. Let's start with these. Let's start with these decisions then. Andy and I already disagree about this. Arsenal's goal against Manchester United, I think if you're given that as a foul, then, every contact in the 6-yard box has got to be given as a foul. Andy disagrees and thinks the goalkeeper's impeded. What's your view?
I agree with you, Danny, and I disagree with you, Andy, on this one. Okay. I think there is contact. Contact is a normal part of football. The referee, Simon Hooper, who I thought did a super job on the day. He's adjudicated on that. Yeah, there's a little bit of contact, but there's not enough contact there for a foul. And I think some people would say, yeah, it's a foul. I think if it had disallowed it, people would have said it was extremely soft. But we do have this high bar for intervention in the Premier League. It's what people have talked about. It's what people want. You look at that game and in its entirety yesterday, the first yellow card was after about 40 minutes, I think. So it's about letting the game flow and having some physical contact. And at the end of the day, it's Simon's call, it's ref's call. And had he have disallowed it, I would have been extremely surprised.
Yeah, I mean, the goalie should have done better. That's no question about it. The one I was surprised at, the IRE one on Josh King in the Brighton-Fulham game. It was Brighton-Fulham, yeah. And I've seen, it's a cliche, I've seen them given, but blimey, I have seen those given. I thought that was a penalty.
When you look at it in real time, it doesn't really look a penalty. If you put the magnifying glass on, like sometimes we do and sometimes we see, you could probably see a little bit of contact on the boot before the ball's played. But Sam Barrett, the referee, looks at that in real time. He's decided it's not a penalty. Is it a clear and obvious error? Is it completely wrong? I would say, no, it's not. Are we going to forensically examine it? No, we're not. That's not what VAR is about. However, if he had have given a penalty again, it wouldn't be overturned. So that's where we are this season. I think we've set the bar right. We haven't had too many talking points, and the referees, are compelled to go out there and referee. And as I said, we see the physical contact. But on this occasion, if you forensically examine that situation, Andy, yeah, you could probably say it's a penalty, but that's not what refereeing is about. It's about what you see on the field, and unless it is that howler, that big mistake, that clear error, then the VAR is not going to intervene.
Chris, for me, the most difficult one of the season to analyse is the handball by Senesi for Bournemouth against Liverpool, because if the VAR or the referee had seen the second movement of his hand, which the ball knocks his fingers back and he clearly deliberately handballs it, there's going to be red cards being produced given where it was and, the proximity of some of Liverpool's attackers. First of all, why do you think that the VAR didn't pull that back? Because the referee couldn't see it. I think it was a momentary thing, but the VAR could have seen it.
Yeah, I think the VAR was too quick to close that one off. I mean, what we saw in the first instance was the ball strike. I think it was the elbow of Senesi, and then there was that secondary movement, and the VAR's closed that one off. So if he'd have seen that secondary movement, then he's got to decide, he's got to look at all the considerations that you've got with denial of a goal scoring opportunity, direction of travel, distance from goals,
still a long way out,
of the ball, number of covering defenders. But I think if it had been detected, you look at Ekitike there, the ball's in front of him, there isn't any covering defenders, and he's got a clear run on goal.
Yeah.
My opinion with that one, Danny, is I thought that was a red card, but as I said, it was closed off quickly by the VAR, so we didn't get to that.
You couldn't see him actually touch the ball. It looked like he touched the ball, but you couldn't see it.
No, there is a shot that from behind where you can see the ball moves his fingers back slightly.
Oh, okay.
He does get a touch on it. And he was calling for not just VAR, but the snickometer there as well for the contact, Chris.
It's hard to see.
Listen, finally, I want to get through this as fast as I can. I want to get Chris's knowledge of all these things. The Eze free kick. Now, I was in the studio earlier on in the control room making the comparison with David Beckham's infamous free kick against Greece for England that qualified England for the World Cup.
They've changed the law,
where Teddy Sheringham obviously pulls the Greek bloke out of the wall like breaking a tooth in order for him to put it in. But, of course, that's not relevant because the law's changed, Chris.
It has indeed, yeah, 2019. If you think about it, when I was refereeing, you'd set up a defensive wall and you get all sorts of shenanigans going on. The attackers on the edge of the wall bumping
in the
into
middle
defenders.
Of it, just behind it, yeah.
Yeah, so when you've set it all up, an attacker's standing right in front, standing on someone's boot, pushing and shoving, it took an eternity to set up. So what the law says now is that if you form a wall with three or more players, an attacker has to be a metre away. And if you look at the Mark Gahey situation, he wasn't, and he actually impeded one of the defenders. Now, I think it came as a surprise, not that the decision was right, the decision was spot on, because we don't see it very often. No. People were curious and going, what's happened here? What's happened here? Listen to what Perry Groves was saying. Andy, you're quite right, he was a bit biased there.
Yeah.
But the VAR, James Bell, he's obviously said to Darren England, the referee, you need to go look at this, which he did. And of course, we got the pitch side announcements, which tidied that up. But it was the correct decision.
Tell me very quickly, because we're running out of time. I mentioned earlier in the show, the 8-second rule, everybody likes that. It's a good idea. Don't let the goalkeeper hang on to it forever. But they've made a real flaw. It took me 1 second to realise. As soon as Dean Henderson took ages taking a goal kick, I went, they haven't brought that in for goal kicks. It's just for when he's got the ball in his hand. And that is mad. That should be exactly the same thing. You take too long over a goal kick, it's a corner. That's it.
Yeah, I think we'll stay with where we are at the minute. I mean, the one, I think it was Martin Dubravka, wasn't it? The Burnley goalkeeper who caught the ball and was dancing around. He was
going
backwards,
the man
forwards.
Oliver as well. You could have predicted that.
He was lateral. He was going everywhere. And I think he gave himself up and said, words to the effect of, I forgot. But we actually conversely, we saw a couple of situations yesterday, didn't we, at Manchester United, where Simon Hooper gave a couple of free kicks where an attacker was preventing the goalkeeper from releasing the ball. But we want the ball in play. We want the game to be fast flowing and entertaining, and we don't want to see the old situations where a goalie catches it and throws himself on the floor and gets to his knees and stands up and moves around.
But Chris, to add what Andy said, I mean, I saw the Dubravka thing. It made me laugh, of course, not least because the man Oliver was in charge of it. But I then ran the television back. Just prior to that, Pedro Porro had a throw-in for Spurs. He had the ball behind his head for 22 seconds, looking up and down the line for a colleague. I mean, it's the right thing to do, the 8-second rule, but they need to apply it, if not this season, but a little bit more widely. Because, as you say, people are paying 60 and 70 quid for tickets for Premier League football. They need to see the ball actually on the pitch.
Yeah, I think the slight difference with that is the ball's out of play. When the goalie's got the ball in his hands, the ball is in play, and we accurately, or referees now accurately calculate time for time lost. But if people are delaying the restart, and we know how that works towards the end of the game, when people are defending a slender lead, then I'm pretty sure the yellow card will come out.
Well, I'm all for more value for the players, for the fans. Listen, Chris, keep listening to Trans Europe Express. You're our #1 fan. I'm going to give you a big shout out next Sunday. And thanks to Chris Foy for joining us here. And don't forget, you can get wherever you get your podcasts, The Men in Black with him and Sam Matterface. It's really, really good. And you're listening in the meanwhile to Kelly and Jacob. Still an hour to go. I can hear the hallelujahs ringing across the country of that news. Yeah, loads of guests for you in the final hour of today's edition of Kelly and Jacobs, including, I dare say, a very impassioned Rupert Bell with the latest news of the conflict that's tearing racing apart at the present moment. Plus, we'll be talking to Maggie Alfonsi about the upcoming Women's Rugby World Cup starting on Friday. It's in here in England, of course. Before that, though, we should get some sports news for you. Here comes Max Scott.
talkSPORT Sports Update, powered by the Nissan Van Range. Supporting van owners to get the job done. Search Nissan Vans or head to your local Nissan Van Centre.
Thank you, Danny. Good afternoon. So, Arsenal invincible. Martin Keown's giving it the old big un. He's backing Arsenal to win the league.
I feel now, and I've never really tipped Arsenal to win the league, and it doesn't really matter if I do or not, they've got to go and do it, but I'm now feeling, Jim, that they're as close to winning it as they possibly ever can be because of what they've added to the squad.
He reckons the strength available on the bench will be the difference for the Gunners looking to end their 20-odd-year wait for the league title. Now, we're turning our attention to the Leeds tonight, where they welcome Everton to Elland Road for their first game back in the big time. Daniel Farker reckons the support from the stands will make a massive difference under the lights tonight.
We have a great unity within the club again. We have a great bond with our supporters, and we know they can be second to none, not just in this country, but really they are outstanding and unique. And it's just also important that we are also, by all these emotions, are not over motivated, and that we channel also the emotions.
You can listen to that one live and exclusively on talkSPORT this evening. In transfer news, talkSPORT understands Spurs are confident of reaching an agreement with Crystal Palace this week to sign Eberechi Eze. Direct talks between Daniel Levy and Steve Parish are expected to accelerate in the next 48 hours. Elsewhere, we understand Brentford are continuing to block Johan Visser's move to Newcastle, despite signing Dango Ouattara from Bournemouth. And with Moses Itauma brutally breezing past Dillian White, our very own boxing expert Adam Catterall's convinced he could cause some serious problems to the very best in the world.
Moses Itauma would definitely ask Alexander Usyk a set of questions that he might not have seen for a long period of time. But can Usyk solve them? Listen, there's nothing to say that he couldn't solve them. He's solved every other problem that's come his way, hasn't he?
There's loads more analysis of the Itauma-White fight on the talkSPORT Boxing YouTube channel.
talkSPORT News.
A man's been found guilty for his role in the drive-by shooting of a 9-year-old girl, and more than 200 UK pubs closed in the first half of the year.
talkSPORT weather with QuickFit. Heatwave outside, oven inside. Stay cool this summer with a free aircon check. Book online or visit your local QuickFit today.
Clouds slowly clearing across central and eastern areas. Sunny spells elsewhere with the odd shower in the southwest.
Yeah, welcome back, everybody, to the third and final hour of today's edition of Kelly and Jacobs. Lots to get through in the next hour. Andy's laughing. For those of you watching on television, I've just been given a bottle of water, the opening of which has not proved as easy as I'd hoped, and some of the water is now down the front of my shirt, which luckily is patterned enough that although you can't see it, I can certainly feel it and possibly wring it out on my body. Lots to get through in the next hour, but our next guest here in the studio with us is Rupert Bell, talkSPORT's racing commentator and indeed czar. And obviously the issue of the new taxation proposals by the government surrounding horse racing. When I spoke to you about this 2 weeks ago, I've seen you pretty upset about things over the years, Rupert. I'm not trying to make drama where there isn't none. You were apoplectic.
Well, I think the racing is concerned about how it's going to fund in the future, and it's dependent on the levy. And if you tax then bookmakers more money, there's going to be less to give into the sport of racing. Now, racing has created its own problems, and so it's not without blame. And the Betting and Gaming Council are saying, well, racing needs to work with the bookmakers better. But if suddenly and they're saying, and the government are saying, they want to align everything. That's even casino gambling and betting on horse racing are seen as one and the same.
Well, they're not, are they?
They're clearly not, and that's what racing's case for the defence is, that they're saying the two are very different. One is definitely just a game of chance. Racing might have an element of skill, but it's certainly something you have to work at. It's a completely different beast.
It's a different industry as well, historically, culturally, employment-wise. This is not to put down the electronic gambling industry. It's a very different thing.
From top to bottom, people might say, well, racing's just for rich, but actually employs people from the very rich down to people who are farriers, stable staff. It has a huge employment strain that it would put a great strain on rural communities who feel threatened anyway with the farming stuff that's going on and feeling that the government is out of touch with rural issues. And racing, while yes, we have urban racecourses, obviously in London, Kempton, Epsom, and that people can enjoy racing. It is the second most attended spectator sport behind football in this country. And so it is an important part of the hospitality industry as well. So there's a lot at stake for racing. And to call off a day's racing...
Sorry, I hadn't quite mentioned that. Where is the racing being called off in protest?
Well, there are 4 meetings on the 10th of September that include Carlisle, Kempton, Lingfield, and I think Pontefract.
Right.
two of those days, if you look back last year, probably had they're not the biggest days, but it's just ahead of the St Ledger meeting, which last year Keir Starmer attended with his wife, who is Lady Starmer is a passionate St Ledger fan, so and a racing fan, so they may have an ally there with the Prime Minister's wife. But I think, as we know, Rachel Reeves, from a tax perspective, is short of cash, so she says. So therefore, it will need racing to have the best lobbying it can, and it's something racing has struggled probably to have the lobbying within Parliament to get people on side. But I know my local MP, Stratford-upon-Avon, elected at the last election, she knows that the Stratford, where they're racing today, has a big training community. Dan Skelton, Ollie Murphy, lots of other trainers, and the horse industry is huge. She has said, and I wrote to me and saying that I am supporting racing's case. So there are MPs who believe in it, but unfortunately it needs the Labour MPs in numbers to make sure that Rachel Reeves is lobbied to actually say, I'll leave this one aside.
Because it isn't a purely posh sport. You're right. I mean, if you go to Cheltenham, yes, you see posh people, but you see everybody. It's all spectrums of human life.
It is a meritocracy, okay? And horses, to own a horse, it's not cheap.
Of course.
But you need everybody else to fund it, the trainers right through. So there is a huge employment industry that it creates. And that, I think, is something racing is concerned about. If suddenly the money dries up, prize money will go down. And I know, back in Ireland, they've got some similar issues with racing. So is definitely under threat, but the government may be saying, well, I'm sorry, we're going to align it. They say for bureaucratic reasons. Well, I would beg to differ. It's basically they need the money. Of course. Don't call it bureaucratic reasons.
Just quickly, though, at the moment it's 15%. It's a kind of levy, isn't it? On each bet?
Every bet there's a levy that goes to the levy board, but obviously there's a tax that bookmakers have.
Tax on winnings, Andy. You wouldn't know what it was about.
Well, I certainly don't.
Don't they pay tax on their profits anyway?
Yes, they do. So the bookmakers anyway. But the trouble is also what is happening. Racing is struggling to get football, the great god that is football, has a much bigger slice of the market than racing, because not everyone picks up the Racing Post and studies the form, whereas football is an easy one. It's two teams, thank you very much. And so racing has an issue to make sure that it still can attract the betting pound along the way. So it is a dilemma for the sport. So they've got to lobby hard. Will they come to anything? My gut feeling is if they pull it off, that will be a bit of a coup. But Rachel Reeves may not be for turning on this one.
Sure. Well, thank you. I mean,
good stuff.
You're representing the case very, very strongly. What about Aston Villa this season?
Don't get me started on PSR because
you're against all regulation. It sounds.
Well, I mean, help me out here. I've got a Chelsea fan and a Tottenham fan sitting opposite me. I don't understand. We've had to sell Jacob Ramsey. One of our own, he's gone for an undisclosed fee to Newcastle. And if you see some of the tweets from John McGinn and Tyrone McGinn, they're upset, because they feel that the club's hands have been tied by PSR and are not able to kick the team.
I agree with you. I don't understand why some clubs they have the ability to spend 250 million and other clubs don't seem to have the ability to spend anything.
I saw a tweet, now I don't know, Manchester United debt, 460 million. Ours, 20 million overdraft.
It's revenue with Manchester United. They make so much money, they're never going to be in PSR trouble.
But it does. It feels like, as a Villa fan, it's definitely one rule for one and a rule for six.
Listen, well, Andy doesn't agree, and he's sports one of the six. But listen, thank you for being here. I'm only cutting you short because Ben Jacobs joins us now, talkSPORT's transfer czar, with some big news. Ben.
Good afternoon. How are you?
Really, really good. Don't delay the big news, Ben.
I say hello.
Dramatic pause and all of that. Well, it relates to Johan Wissa. Now, this morning, talkSPORT broke an exclusive, myself and chief football correspondent Alex Crook, and we said over the weekend Brentford have changed their position and they're blocking a move. They want to keep him. Dango Ouattara arriving is seen as a Brian Mbeumo replacement, and therefore another attacker would have to come in for Wissa to leave. And even so, Brentford don't just want 50, they want 60 million or more for a 28-year-old who's got 1 year left with an extra club option. Wissa was under the impression he would be able able to leave, most notably for Newcastle United. But in the last 24 hours, the complexion has changed dramatically. And in the last 5 minutes or so, Wissa has given a clear response. He has removed every single Brentford photo and video from his social profiles. He has unfollowed the club, and he has changed his profile picture to a black circle. So this is clear from Wissa. He is disappointed in Brentford because they are blocking his move to Newcastle United with just 2 weeks of the window remaining.
Could have been a black and white circle, I suppose.
I just love the fact that now I'm taking my ball home now. I'm changing my social media profile. And I sympathise with Brentford here. They've already lost one of their best players, two of their best players this summer. They don't need the money, even, mind you, Ben,
the trouble is, if he sees his contract out, number one, he's going to be moaning, he's not going to be happy. And number two, they're going to get nothing for him next summer. So they're in a difficult position. They won't get 60 million. They'll be lucky to get 40, I think.
Yeah, I think the other thing in all of this, though, is that there's a backstory. So it'd be very easy to paint Johan Wissa as trying to force his way out the club. And Brentford's perspective is very clear that Dango Ouattara doesn't unlock anything because, as I said before, he's the Mbeumo replacement. But Wissa's perspective is that this is a once-in-a-career opportunity to play Champions League football. And also a year ago, when Ivan Toney left for Al Ahly, Wissa was told verbally, if not formally, that he would be allowed to leave in 12 months' time, because Ivan Toney had gone to Al Ahly, and Wissa was told, commit, do another season, and there's a gentleman's agreement that you can go for just 30 million euros for every club outside of Saudi and 40 million euros if it's a Saudi club. And remember, Al Nassr and Neom have both been trying for Wissa this window as well. So Wissa's frustration is not just about not getting his move to Newcastle now. It's the fact that he believes he was fully committed and invested to the Brentford project all last season, only to find this summer that the gentleman's pact that he believes to be in place was effectively pulled from under him. And as a consequence, Wissa is making it absolutely clear, ironically, a bit like Alexander Isak at Newcastle, that he does not want to play for Brentford again.
Listen, Ben, thank you very much indeed. Ben Jacobs, with the news that Johan Wissa has unfollowed Brentford on his social media. I think, Johan, you'll find that a gentleman's agreement is not worth the paper it's not printed on.
Exactly. Brentford's not in their history to sell even two players, and they'd already got rid of two. They were never going to get rid of three, but maybe they'll have to.
Well, it's all about timing now, isn't it? If it genuinely is a huge offer, and they get time to replace him and spend the money, albeit other teams will know they've got the dough to spend, then maybe they'll have to make that decision. Listen, we'll have a quick break. When we come back, we'll be talking to Maggie Alfonsi on the eve of the Women's Rugby World Cup right here in England. Right, coming up very, very, very soon, the 10th edition of the Women's Rugby World Cup, taking place here in England between the 22nd of August and the 27th of September. The opening match will be at the nearly 50,000 people fit into the Stadium of Light, where host England will take on the USA. To help us look forward to that tournament in itself and what it means for women's rugby, I'm delighted to say we're joined now by former England player and, of course, a World Cup winner in her own right, Maggie Alfonsi. Good afternoon, Maggie, first of all.
Good afternoon, Danny. Good afternoon, Andy.
Listen, thank you for joining us. I should make the point that you're working... one of the things you're doing during this is working with the National Lottery. And I think sometimes we forget in the finances of the Premier League and all the rest of it, just the kind of work that the National Lottery has historically done over the past 30 years, particularly for developing sports like women's rugby. Tell us something about their involvement.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So the National Lottery have invested over the last 30 years £6 billion. And with regards to women's rugby, they've invested 170 million of that money into rugby projects, clubs, supporting athletes. And if I think about myself, if it wasn't for the National Lottery, I wouldn't have been the athlete that I ended up being. You know, just having the money to support you to pay for your training, transport, training supplements, just having that extra finance. And I was someone who was brought up in a council estate with a single parent family, so that money was much needed, and I'm very grateful to their support. And there's many players out there who've made it to the top or who are still going and definitely need that support, and I'm very grateful to have it.
Well, listen, thank you for that.
Okay, I was going to say, we've seen the influence the Lionesses have had on girls playing football. Presumably, maybe not as much, but is there a similar thing happening in rugby?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, look, we've seen the Lionesses' success have this almost inspirational impact. So there's many girls and boys who are looking upon those individuals and what they've achieved and gone, I want to be like them. And what we've seen now is many people are starting to watch women's sport. And what the Lionesses have achieved has definitely set that up for the Women's Rugby World Cup, obviously starting on Friday. People are starting to watch it. People are interested. There's this just sudden momentum for women's sport, which is absolutely brilliant. And obviously, we're hoping to sell out every stadium. We're hoping to get the coverage to also be well supported. It just shows you how far women's sport has come, and what the Lionesses have achieved has been significant. And we're really hoping that the women's rugby will also do the same.
I'm hoping that this tournament, I'll use it to educate myself somewhat about the women's game at this national level. England, I note, are favourites, Maggie, and it would be wrong. You know, there are 4 pools of 4, so I'm guessing some of the 16 nations are really at the beginning of their learning curve at international rugby. But aside from England, who are the other teams that you say are powerful and could give the likes of England a good game on their day and beat them?
Great question. You say you're not educated in rugby, but I bet you know your rugby inside out. So look, when it comes to the World Cup, England are obviously going as favourites. They're number 1 in the world. They haven't lost a game for 27 games. So they're doing pretty well. They haven't lost since 2022. But in terms of other nations that they will have to watch out for, the first one is Canada. People are saying they're dark horses, but I wouldn't say they're dark horses. I just think they're definitely a contender to potentially knock England off their top spot. So Canada, second in the world. They have pushed England several times in terms of games when they've played against each other. Canada have also pushed the likes of New Zealand, who are another team who are very much the favourites. New Zealand have won the World Cup 6 times. I always say they're World Cup team, so they always turn up for World Cups and they generally win them. So they're a team that England will have to watch out for. So Canada are an interesting one because they have a lot of players who play over here in England, so their players will know the English style of rugby, the English players very well, and will know how to take them on, where New Zealand had this different style of flair. You know, they play a very different style of rugby to England, very much offloading, playing off the cuff, where England are very structured, a lot of their rugby evolves around very forward orientated. So that's going to be interesting. And the French as well, you can't count out the French. So England played France in a warm-up match and England won quite convincingly, but actually in the Six Nations, in the last final game, France lost by 1 point. They wish they'd won. They lost by 1 point. So it just highlights the fact that there are quite a few teams out there that are going to be pushing England for that World Cup final spot and potentially to get that trophy. But it's good to see that it's going to be competitive.
I seem to remember the last final. Was the last final New Zealand against England? It was something like a Sunday morning. It was a really close game. I remember watching it and getting completely gripped by it, but obviously my memory's terrible. I can't remember exactly what happened in the end, but I remember it was very gripping. You'll fill in the gaps.
Yeah, you're spot on. It was absolutely close. So it was the World Cup final. It got moved to 2022. Supposed to be in 2021. It was in New Zealand. They had a sellout crowd, and basically England had this line out on New Zealand's pretty much try line, and all England needed to do was to catch that ball, take it down, maul it over and get a try. And that's something England always do. They always score via line-out mauls. But New Zealand did something out of the ordinary. They stole a ball off the line-out, English line-out, and once they caught it, they kicked it out and they won it by a small margin. So it just highlights the fact that anything can happen on the day. You know, and England went into that as favourites as well. So that's why it's very much quite exciting to think that this World Cup coming up is going to be a very competitive one and obviously the most well-attended one.
And Maggie, a bit of local knowledge from me. You went through the top four in the world. Ranked fifth is Ireland. And as well as this tournament with the women inspiring young girls to play, of course, there's another thing going on here, and that is the success over the past decade and a half of Ireland's male rugby team has really affected a number of girls who would normally be attracted to athletics or camogie, female hurling and Gaelic football over in Ireland, have suddenly taken to rugby. They've seen the national side do fantastically well, albeit not in World Cups, over the last 15 years, winning multiple Six Nations, and that has really affected it as well. It's fascinating to watch the different ways in which these sports come to the top. Well, Maggie, I'm sure you'll be on talkSPORT plenty of times over the next month to help us understand how the tournament's going. England, as I say, starters favourites. Maggie will be representing the National Lottery and the work they do for women's rugby. It's the 10th edition of it, and as I say, the opening match will be hopefully a sellout at the 49,000 capacity Stadium of Light when England take on the United States. Now, thanks to Maggie Alfonsi for joining us here on talkSPORT.
Every spring, sports fans in Europe come together to celebrate arguably rugby's biggest annual tournament, the Six Nations. But why is it the home nations, plus France and Italy, and no one else? It all started back in 1871 when Scotland beat England in the very first international rugby match. A few years later, when they could field a team, Wales decided they'd host England and an idea was thought up. With Ireland keen, they formed the Home International Championship, which ran from 1883. In 1910, France was allowed to join, as they were developing into a serious rugby nation, and thus the Five Nations was born. France had an interesting history with the championship. They were actually booted out for paying their players in 1931, when the home nations were keen to keep it amateur. After World War II, though, France were let back in, but it remained a closed shop for more than 50 years. And when another country was let in, it was only really because the Five Nations hand had been forced. Italy was developing into a serious contender, beating Scotland, France and Ireland twice in the same year, meaning in 1999 officials got together and said yes to Italy, and it became the Six Nations. So what changes, if any, come next? 7 nations? 8? A promotion and relegation system? Or should we leave it alone and let it remain the great rugby tradition it's become?
Yes, stick with us for the next 30 minutes as we race through the finishing line like Usain Bolt. And remember that the latest episode of the 21 Minutes to Go podcast with Andy Goldstein and Jason Cundy is out now. It's all the usual chaos this week, including tiny feet chat and all the sloth inside that you need. As talkSPORT answers to David Attenborough, Cundy gives us the latest sloth news.
There were sloths. I don't know how to say this in straight face things. There used to be sloths. The size of elephants.
Jesus! Please tell me there's a picture.
Look, this is like so. There's.
Have you got a picture?
I have.
How slow would that have been?
They're 3 times stronger.
Yeah.
They're undisputed pull-up world champions, apparently.
Amazing sloth. Maybe sloth news every week.
Sloths can lift their entire body weight. They come out of the womb, wherever they come out, and they can lift themselves up with one arm.
Sorry, my favourite part about that is they come out of the womb or wherever they come out from.
Yeah, if you haven't already, go and check 21 Minutes to Go with Andy Goldstein and Jason Cundy. Available on your favourite podcast provider. That one recorded, obviously, in what was obviously a sloth news day.
Thank you.
Right, European football next. I'm joined every Sunday by Andy Brassell on Trans Europe Express at 9 o'clock on a Sunday evening. It's Chris Foy's favourite radio, television or cinematic experience of all time. Mine too, as it goes. Good afternoon, Andy.
Hello, fellas. How are you?
Very good. We've got so many stories to get through. I mean, it's a 3-hour show, Andy, and we always finish thinking, we've left that out, haven't we? Yeah, there's so much that has to be gone through. Let's start, Andy, with a big name drop for you. In Germany, another trophy for Harry Kane as Bayern won the Super Cup, and you were there.
Yeah, and it was 2-1 to Bayern, but it was a lot more comfortable than that, even though it was at Stuttgart. It's always as Community Shield is cup winner versus league winner, the difference being it's played on one of their grounds, and it was played in Stuttgart this weekend. But there'd been a lot of back and forth between the two clubs this weekend because Kane needs a bit of help. As he spoke about afterwards, he said it's one of the smallest squads, that I've played in. Of course, they've lost a lot of players this summer, including Palhinha, Thomas Muller, Kingsley Coman's just gone off to Saudi Arabia to join Cristiano Ronaldo. So they're clearly going to have to do some beefing up. Although one of the new arrivals, Luis Diaz, scored the winner. They've been trying to buy Nick Woltemade, the Germany striker who was so good in the Euro under-21s from Stuttgart. Now, Stuttgart seemed to close the door on that this weekend. They said he's not going anywhere. They've made we made Bayern clear of that, and we made the player clear on that as well. Now, the player didn't come through to speak to the journalists afterwards. I think he took a little back exit, so he didn't have to discuss it. So whether he's privately seething or not, it certainly seemed that way.
Well, we'll soon know, because he'll remove his club from his Instagram.
Like Visser.
Like Johan Visser.
Bayern want Nkunku, though, don't they? They've made a loan offer. Chelsea want to sell him, and that seems to be holding up the Xavi Simons deal as well. So hopefully that'll all fall into place.
Yeah, more than one forward thereafter, Andy, because of course they lost Leroy Sané as well. You know, we already talked about Muller and Coman. That's a lot of players to try and replace, and the fact that Jamal Musiala's out at the moment. Now, Luis Diaz had the sort of start that a player who has been sitting out of full training to force a move kind of has to a season, really. He didn't look quite on it, although the goal he scored, which turned out to be the winner, was a very Luis Diaz goal, sort of drifting into the centre. And I guess that's what Bayern wingers haven't really done in recent years. They've since Ribéry and Robben, robbery,
Batman and Robin,
like. They've not really had wingers who have like pulled the team forward. It's not been quite the same sort of level. So Luis Diaz, because he works so hard off the ball as well, is the guy that they hope will pick up that slack and I guess be their surrogate Ribéry.
And after the game, because you're so important, the England captain Harry Kane stopped to talk to Andy about the comparison between this Super Cup and his debut 2 years ago.
Yeah, I think that was a crazy kind of 24 hours to move and to play my first game with, the transfer went through early hours of that morning. So that was a bit of a whirlwind. It was hard to kind of take that all in, and obviously disappointing that we lost as well. So this was a chance for me to start the game and try and win another trophy. And it's not the biggest trophy we're going to play for this season, but it's important to have that momentum to start the year. And we celebrate every trophy like it's the first, and we move on to the next one.
Yeah, a man there still wishing he was in the Europa Cup final, but there you are. Andy, let's move on to Spain, where the comedy club that is Barcelona continue to find ways to register players later and later and later, nearer and nearer and nearer to kick-off time, with a new personal best this weekend for Marcus Rashford.
Yeah, pretty impressive. He played and made his debut in the last 20 minutes of the 3-0 win at Mallorca on Saturday night. He wasn't registered until 10:32 that morning.
Fantastic.
On the La Liga site. And to think that you need a clear day in England as well, it's remarkable, really. But Barcelona, they do find their workarounds. They had, including the contract re-uppers, they had, 6-7 new signings last week, none of whom were registered. The most concerning, I guess, from an English perspective, it would be Rashford, but realistically, it was Joan Garcia, because Marc-Andre ter Stegen's massively fallen out with the club and is out injured. Szczesny counted as a new signing because he was signing a new contract for an expiring contract. So the fact they got Garcia over the line on that same morning officially, although they inked it the night before, plenty of time, really, less than 24 hours to happen. But the only thing that was later than that was the challenge by Vedat Muriqi, the big number 9 of Mallorca, where he planted his boot into Joan Garcia's face. So he kept a clean sheet, but not at no cost. Mallorca were absolutely steaming mad because they ended up
but it was covered in his own blood, yeah.
Exactly. He was still smiling at the end. But Barcelona won 3-0 against the 9 men. The second goal is one of the more extraordinary goals of opening weekend in La Liga, or in any of the big 5 leagues, in actual fact, because Raúl, the Mallorca captain, was hit by an absolute missile of a shot by Lamine Yamal. he was on the floor, and as everyone stopped, Ferran Torres put it in. And of course, you're assuming that's not going to be a goal. And then there's this little delay, and you realise that it is a goal. Of course, Mallorca were absolutely incensed. The referee explained to the Mallorca coach, Hagaba Arasate, that I could see the player wasn't dazed. I'm not sure I could see anything, seeing as he was lying on the floor. But that was his medical verdict on it, and that led to him allowing the goal, which made it 2-0.
He'll be running out next with a whistle around his neck and a stethoscope, won't he?
But the thing about Barca, though, briefly on them, they're a basket case off the pitch. They have been, but on the pitch, you think they're one of the few teams that can probably run PSG close this year in the Champions League?
Maybe. I think. Look, they were really good for a lot of last season. I think for the group stage, they were the best team in it. I think everyone wanted to see them really get in the final, apart from Real Madrid fans, I guess, and maybe PSG fans, to play PSG, because I think it would have been an even better final. It would have been a closer final, even though it was a definitive final performance by PSG. I guess, though, so much of it lies on Lamine Yamal and Rafinha. And Rafinha scored the opening goal of their La Liga season 7 minutes in, picking up where he left off last season. And it was interesting. You think of all the other places that they could maybe improve. You know, do they need to toughen up in defence? Do they need a holding midfielder? All those sort of things. And Deco, the sporting director, he said straight at the start of the summer, when he was asked, what do you need? He said, well, what we need is cover for our two big guys, meaning Rafinha and Lamine Yamal, because if they get injured, we're in trouble, and we need to not flog them for 60 games a season.
Andy, let's move on to France. PSG having drawn with Tottenham, but won the Super League and made 8 changes and still won. And also a lovely weekend for Eric Dyer, suddenly becoming sort of appreciated in his later years of his career.
Yeah, I mean, if your finger's hovering over your phone and you're waiting for the Will Ferrell "that accelerated quickly" meme, I think now is the time to use it, because Eric Dyer's only just arrived, of course, already a hero because he scored the second goal in the 3-1 win over Le Havre, and he's really credited with bringing on Christian Mawassa, a brilliant centre-back, only 20 years old, who I think will probably end up in the Premier League at some point for a lot of money. Dyer is coaching him on the pitch already, and he was saying that. Adi Hutter, the coach, was saying that. And today, it looks like Eric Dyer, one game into his Monaco career, might become the captain, because Dennis Zakaria, formerly of Chelsea, of course, he looks like he's off to Al Ahly in Saudi Arabia. Unanimous choice for new captain, Eric Dyer.
Yeah,
amazing.
That's my choice as well. I'm voting for Eric. I stuck by him all the way. I loved him. Very quickly, Andy, you got on
big injury for Lukaku. That's going to affect things, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, Andy. It's a serious thigh muscle injury, might require surgery, going to be out for at least a couple of months. November is looking like is the earliest he's going to come back. So Antonio Conte, who's had quite a tranquil summer because he's got pretty much everything he wanted from Kevin De Bruyne onwards, now they're going out there having to get a new striker, probably with, 5 days to go until the start of the new season. So that's really huge for them. It's going to require a big effort to get someone decent. Of course, the reserves, they've got rid of Gio Simeone, who went off to Torino, Diego's son, and Raspadori went off to Atletico, for whom he made their debut, and his debut in their defeat last night. So it's an unenviable thing to have to do. They're thinking of sort of deregistering Lukaku for the first part of the season so they can clear space in the squad and the salary cap.
Andy, listen, thank you very much as always. I'll see you on Sunday night at 9 o'clock here on talkSPORT for Trans Europe Express. And trust me, the programme is going gangbusters. The figures are all great, and it is all, and I'm not being modest here, it is all down to Andy. That's the truth of the thing.
I think it's more Chris Foy.
Yeah, and Chris Foy's endless backing of us. Thank you very, very much indeed. Next, we'll be looking forward to the big game tonight. Leeds take on Everton in the Premier League. That's next here on talkSPORT.
Paddy Power on talkSPORT. With Paddy's Super Sub, your new bet rolls over to the new player coming on. T's and C's and exclusions apply. 18 plus, begambleaware.org.
Yeah, it's time now for today's Bet Builder with our friends at Paddy Power. Welcome to Fern Buckley. We are looking forward to tonight's game in the Premier League as Leeds play Everton at Elland Road. Fern, please remind us of how the Bet Builder actually works.
Yeah, good afternoon. A Bet Builder is a combination of bets across different markets. We add them all together to get some overall value. Paddy Power then put a £10 bet down in the hopes we get it right, because when we do, it all goes to the Attitude Foundation, who do wonderful work with the LGBT community.
How excited were we on that last day of the season when it finally came off for the first
How
time?
good was that? Honestly, it was the best thing ever, wasn't
Like
it?
a miracle. Anyway, we better get on to tonight's
Okay, well,
game.
listen, Fern, I hope that they play their new goalkeeper, Lucas Perry, because I really think he's going to be one of the bargains of the season.
Yeah.
What are the odds on Leeds having a clean sheet?
Really interesting one for them to win. Not quite a clean sheet,
Right.
but off the back of a cracking season, top of the championship, finishing with 100 points. First game back at home in front of home fans in the Premier League. Wouldn't it be wild to think, they could get something out of this? They could pull it out of the bag. A win for them is in at 13-10.
Yeah, the only thing is, they're coming up against one of the most experienced managers and a pretty well-seasoned team, so it won't be easy for them. Calvert-Lewin, though, I think he might not start, but I think he'll get an opportunity. I'm going for him to score and not celebrate.
Interesting, isn't it? Because obviously going from one team to the other, 240 appearances he made for Everton, and then just a couple of days ago moving over to Leeds. Daniel Farker actually said he's going to be able to revive his career with this move to Leeds. So maybe he could do that, starting off with a goal. He scored 3 times last season for Everton. For him to score is in at 11-5. He's a super sub as well. So if for any reason he comes off, Paddy Power will protect your bet and move it over to whoever comes on for him.
Our producer's pick is for Ethan Ampadu to be booked.
Yeah, another super sub. He received 7 bookings in the Championship last season. He's a dominant player, plays quite physically. And he's actually spoken out about how he wants to be able to play on the pitch without fear of getting booked or a suspension inevitably. So a card for him in this game is in at 5-2.
Meanwhile, the people's pick is what, Fern?
They have gone for both teams to score. So although we think that Leeds might win this, both teams to score is come in for 9 of the Toffees' last 15 games. Maybe an appearance as well from a certain Jack Grealish if he comes on the pitch. He might want to start off with a goal for his new club if he comes on. So both teams to score, that's in at 17-20.
And finally, Fern, your own pick.
This is a good pick.
Thank you. I like this pick. So I've gone with Daniel. I don't actually like it, but Daniel James to be fouled once or more. Last season, the Championship, he was fouled 37 times, some quite nasty ones as well, actually. But on average, he is fouled almost 1.5 times every 90 minutes. So I'm going for that, and that is in at 1-4, and he's another super sub.
Listen, thank you. If that all comes in, we'll be very, very excited indeed. That's Paddy Power's Bet Builder for today. Minimum odds 1-5 per leg. It's 18 plus. BeGambleAware.org.
Paddy Power on talkSPORT. With Paddy's Super Sub, your new bet rolls over to the new player coming on. T's and C's and exclusions apply. 18 plus, BeGambleAware.org.
Okay, let's get an expert view on what might happen at Elland Road tonight with the former Leeds and England defender, Danny Mills. First of all, good afternoon, Danny. Ooh.
Not there.
A rare silence from Danny Mills there.
Yes, very rare.
I'll do that again. Let's get an expert. Oh, he is there. Hello, Danny.
Yes, I am here. Sorry, no expert with technology. Just me, unfortunately.
Well, we've got you now, and that's the important thing. Look, we've seen how teams from the Championship have struggled in recent seasons. Everton themselves have not been the greatest form over the last couple of years. What do you see happening tonight?
I think tonight will be interesting. Obviously, the home crowd at Elland Road will be absolutely buzzing. They will be loving it back in the Premier League. It's a Premier League. Everything is set up, for Leeds to be in the Premier League. Yes, you have to earn the right to be in it. We know that, but it is still one of the best atmospheres, around, bar none. So that will be ferocious. They'll be looking to get off to a good start. It's going to be difficult. When you look at the teams that have struggled, in recent seasons, Everton have strengthened greatly, over the course of the summer. David Moyes got his feet under the table. It's not going to be easy. Leeds have a lot of new signings. Look like they've got some very athletic players within their ranks now. But how do they gel? How do they come together, for the first proper game of the season?
And it's interesting watching lots of games on the weekend, players really struggling with their touch and the final ball, and it takes time, doesn't it, in the season to get that. So it could be quite a stodgy game. I'm hoping it isn't, but Everton are never easy to break down, and if the forward players aren't quite at it, it could be a bit like the game I went to yesterday, pretty boring.
Yeah, it took me about 37 games to get my touch going.
And you're injured for the last one, Danny.
Two, I'm normally suspended. It took a while. But no, it is still early season. It gets probably, it's 5 or 6 games till we get up to match speed. And again, it's playing pre-season is one thing, especially obviously a lot of teams play against foreign opposition that play in different styles, different ways, a bit more possession-based. This should be, it'll be quite an athletic game. I expect it to be quite attritional.
Lovely.
The fans will be right up for it. I expect Jack Grealish will come on at some point. Will undoubtedly get dogs abuse. Leeds and Villa don't have a fantastic history in recent seasons, although obviously Jack has moved on since then a couple of times. But no, I think it'll be a great game. It's fantastic to see Leeds back in the Premier League.
And Danny, listen, because we're running slightly short of time, in the wider picture, how important is it that one or more of the promoted teams stays up this year?
Everybody wants that, I think, this time.
Absolutely huge. The gap is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. It's harder and harder to stay in there. You have to gamble big. Leeds, if they go back to their old ways, bit dirty, bit scrappy, dig out a few results, then 17th is a massive result for any team that's come up.
Of the three, which one do you fancy? Because Sunderland has spent a lot of money.
Leeds.
Oh, Leeds, of course, yeah, sorry.
Well, it might be Leeds and Sunderland.
Well, listen, thank you very, very much indeed. Danny Mills there with just a taste of what you might hear tonight. Remember that this game is live and exclusive on talkSPORT this evening. Presented by Adrian Durham, commentary from Sam Matterface, the former Watford captain Troy Deeney, who we heard earlier on in the show this afternoon, and the former Leeds and Everton winger Aaron Lennon will be the team that brings you this game. As I say, Leeds against Everton, the last game of the first weekend of the Premier League. I can't wait. It should be an absolute belter.
Yeah,
because both teams are already, even this stage of the season, every point is so precious, particularly if you're going to be in the bottom half of the table. It makes this game fascinating. Not suggesting either team are going to necessarily be in the bottom half of the table, but there's some very good teams who might be above them. Let's put it like that. Andy? They said it couldn't be done. They said they couldn't get the two of us into a television studio and make a radio show of any quality.
And if you missed any of it, it's on the K&J Daily Podcast.
Which, of course, we've just been doing the Tops of Tails tour, and it sounds like it's going to be a great podcast. You're back with me on Wednesday, I understand?
Looking forward to it.
Looking forward to it hugely. Tomorrow, I'll be back with Charlie Baker, the return of Baker and Kelly, which I know you've all been you've all been desperate for. But listen, thank you all for listening. Thank you to the crew behind the glass for making it happen, particularly Becky, who I haven't worked with for about 1,000 years. Thank you very much indeed. Coming up, it's drive time. Of course it is. Bless you all, and cheers for now.